Oh, Jesus Christ.
Hello again, friends, and Jesus Christ, and you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru right here on a fall day, and we'll see how far we fall here today. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. We have some modern wrestling reviews, we have some classic wrestling topics, and the usual, whatever the hell it is, with this man, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mickey himself, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Hey, Mickey, you punctuated, I guess would be the proper terminology. You punctuated the freestyling, let's say, on the organ with the mystery phrase that people are still, it's going to be like the Popeye's chicken of recorded audio. People are going to be killing each other over trying to figure out what this thing is and fighting over what they think it is. Because we got people either way with the Inoki keychain that is right. Either I just called to say I love you is what he's saying, or whatever the fuck.
A lot of people, I posted the video of this on Twitter and on Instagram. You can find me there, Great Brian Last.
I didn't know you were lost.
A lot of people think that he's saying Tiger Bomb. It's definitely not Tiger Bomb. There was no Tiger Bomb.
No, Tiger Bomb. He had sore gluteus muscles
after wrestling Tiger Jeet Singh.
And it just doesn't sound like arigato, as somebody was saying. And
a lot of people said that. We heard from people who said, like, I'm married to a Japanese woman and I played her this thing. She says it's arigato. And then some other people started chiming in saying, no, Inoki had a famous phrase, which I don't know what it is, and I can't say it off the top of my head. It's that. So we still don't know. And then he does the Ichi ni Sanda, which we're cutting off there. And that's
your thing is stuck, and that's all it'll play.
I would do anything for this just to play the song once on the air. Instead, Tiger Bomb. Instead, Tiger Bomb.
Tiger. It doesn't play the song. You just hallucinated that one time you thought it did. All right, we'll come back to it then. Okay. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it's just
you're gonna melt your battery there, Tiger. Anyway, I wanted to say here at the top of the program, for those of you who have been following the developing fluid situation concerning Stace's mom has been in the hospital for a few weeks now, a month, as a matter of fact, exactly. They transferred her this weekend to the physical rehabilitation place over here. The people are nice and they got the 24-hour, medical staff and et cetera, but also concentrating on, she's been sitting in a chair or laying in a bed for a month at a hospital. So she's got to get back up and about, and they're working on that. And we're going to have a meeting in a couple of days with them on her progress when she gets to come back home. They moved into their new place 6 months ago. And since that time, she's been in the hospital a total of about 6 or 7 weeks. So she hadn't really got settled yet. But that was good news for those of you who have been sending nice thoughts and not enough Reese cups. I wish more people would send Reese cups, but a lot of people have been saying nice things and sending kind thoughts. But Reese cups would be appreciated also. I got to get something out of this.
Oh, for you? I thought you meant for her.
No, she's diabetic.
Well, what are you randomly bring up Reese cups to be nice? Why are people mailing you anything?
Well, I'm sort of holding the mail. Trying to feed my diabetic mother-in-law Reese cups. What's that about you?
You are talking about this woman who's gone through a lot and how thankfully she's on the uphill, or she's going uphill, whatever we determine there. And then all of a sudden you're like, people thank you for sending your nice wishes. Reese cups will be nice. Send those. I figure you're talking about her.
Well, I thought, in my time of need also.
Time of need?
I don't have any Reese cups.
Oh.
But also in my spare time, I'll have you know that I have been able to, in my spare time, laughingly, but no, while Stace and her sister have been visiting their mom in the new facility over here. I've had a chance to sleeve a few more of my negatives. We talked about the negatives a few weeks ago as part of the process that the new book, which we'll talk about later, has been an offshoot of. And I have now officially put the negatives in the sleeves of 9,000 frames of wrestling photos. 9,000. And boy, howdy, it's impressive when you look at it, but when you look at what I've got left, it doesn't look like that much. But gold, Jerry, gold. I'm finding the gold, baby. But in the process of that, see, some of these have not been taken out of the envelope. Many of them, almost all of them, have not been taken out of the envelopes that they were in since they were last sent back to me from the photo finishing place where we had shit printed, right? So I'm not saying that every one of those 9,000 frames is, a gold star photo, but the majority of them are, because we've had many of the frames on the strips reprinted. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth poorly?
I think so far. Poorly.
Okay. So it says on the last sleeve, we had 100 of these printed or 200 of these printed. And I'm sitting here going through just sleeve after sleeve after sleeve of these. And again, getting a visual representation, what we talked about before when I said how many tens of thousands of pictures that we sold at the souvenir stands in this territory. And I've realized now that if Jim Crockett Promotions had been smart, they could have goddamn avoided going $2 million in debt by putting out a picture table. They could have saved their whole goddamn company by putting out a fucking picture table instead of the haphazard t-shirts and the lousy big event. The big event programs were nice, but the regular programs, if there was one for the events, kind of suck.
Yeah, I own the rights to a lot of those programs, actually.
Yeah.
They're not the greatest.
So you can testify. Yeah. And the Memphis programs were nothing to write home about it. Lawler laid them out in 10 minutes on his coffee table. He had me write shit in longhand and just took a stack of my pictures and made it up.
I personally like the King's fun pages where it's like mazes and cartoons and games to play. He
would just draw a cartoon around an actual maze page that he had clipped from a magazine or whatever. But anyway, point being, think about this, Brad. Let's say 1981 and 1982, where a lot of this stuff is from, was my big years in the picture business. But I know how much that in a variety of the towns, the merchandise stands were grossing because my mother was one of the people selling the stuff and counting the money. And she got paid a commission based on what it was. So Louisville was $1,000 a week town. And if it did $800, that's what it was, a crummy crowd or just horrible for whatever reason, the fifth Tuesday of the month, whatever. But about $1,000 a week you could count on. That's $52,000 a year. Let's write this down. 52 grand for Louisville. And now, if it was a big crowd, it could go above that as well. But let's just keep an average. Over in Evansville, bless them, bless their little pea-picking hearts at the Coliseum. If we did $400, that was thank you. You know, that made it worth the trip and etc. But that's still, what's 400 times 52, Brian? You're a smart man, graduate of a major university. Around
20,800.
Okay.
The major university was Nassau Community College, for the record.
Well, they've expanded lately online, and you can also marry people with a certificate from there.
It's a 2-year school.
Well, they'll be around much longer than that. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Well, don't laugh at them.
They've been around for a while.
Anyway, in Lexington, they ran once a month, right? And because they ran once a month, the people only got one chance at the gimmick table. And because it was generally a bigger crowd overall, the goal going into every Lexington show was $2,000. And occasionally it might not reach that, but oftentimes it'd go a couple $100 above that. But let's say 2,000 times 12 is $24,000. Now, also, Teeny ran at least one spot show, the other 3 Thursdays, or potentially a Saturday once in a while, up here. And that was way off the charts, depending on, it could be a stinker and wouldn't do $200, but on those big ones, we do $1,000 sometimes at a high school gym. So realistically, put in another $300 or $400 a week for 3 times a fucking month. Let's say you get another 15 grand just off top of our head. That is $72,96, $111,000 a year that they grossed just on the merchandise stand at Christine's Towns. And Memphis was bigger business because it was the biggest crowd. And then you had Jackson, Tennessee, and then you had Nashville and all these spot shows around those markets where Ms. Coffee, good old Guy Coffey's wife, Bonnie, traveled all around the Memphis spot shows and had her girls and at the table selling all the pictures, right? It was at least double it. So you're talking over $200,000 a year in 1981 and 1982 in $1 color 3.5 by 5s, $3 8x10s, a 50-cent black and white 4-page fold-over program with an insert, and My Championship Wrestling magazine. And that's today's money, Brian, at $220,000, let's say, would be almost 700 grand.
So what year are we talking about for this average?
81, 82 is the figures that I'm specifically quoting right here.
What's interesting is, while Memphis or the Memphis territory, the Nashville office, whatever you want to call it, was doing this kind of business, what kind of merch operation, if any, did anyone else in wrestling really have? Vince McMahon gets t-shirts and stuff really going in 83. But in 82, 81 and 82, who was making merch money? What promoters were making merch money?
Almost nobody. And the thing is, they were doing programs. They were, Les Thatcher had pioneered t-shirts in the Carolinas and, with the Briscoes and things and Thunderbolt. Some people, and especially those within the business, the veterans out there, are going to say, well, a lot of times the guys would have put up a stink and say, well, no, I need part of the fucking money. Well, yeah, the guys were getting, the guys on the other end, as we've talked about and covered on this show, the Memphis end down there, they got most all of the money, except what they might have paid out of pocket to girls that were selling at the time, or get Ms. Coffee a bottle of tonic or something. But Christine was selling the pictures, obviously past the cost of paying me to buy them. And that's how she paid her driver, was the 20% to the salesperson, who would then, drive her to the matches and back. But it got to be so big, she had to have 2 people start selling it. That's where they brought my mom in, etc. And that she still gave the leftover to the boys. She kept a manifest. And they'll say, oh, it wasn't all that much. Well, it added up. They didn't keep track because it was cash. Here, stick it in your pocket. And but here's what I'm saying, is that was a way that it, especially for the baby faces, made it more attractive to work in this territory, because they were making money that the promoter didn't have to pay them. But what I'm saying is that on this level in this size of a territory with this size crowds. There's, yes, 3,000 people in Louisville every week. So you had to keep coming up with new shit because the same people were coming. So that's why we took new pictures over and over and put them in different fucking situations,
Bathtubs.
whatever, different color backdrops, different outfits. But that dollar, everybody had $1. The kid wanted to go to the concession stand. Here's $1. Oh, I get a picture of somebody. Or the girls that would come and get the pictures every week, every picture of new Bill Dundee, new Jerry Lawler, new Fabulous Ones. Here's $7. Boom. It added up and it was psychologically easy to part with. That's $3 today, but a lot of people wouldn't have $3 in their fucking pocket. And again, this was the gross, so they had to pay for the shit, which is where I came in. But we sold everything for at least 3 times what we were paying for it because I was getting those fucking 3.5 by 5s for 23 cents at the start. I think it finally upped it to 26. And I was making $8 or $10 on 100, but I'd sell 1,500 packs of hundreds. And I pushed the 8 by 10s because I jacked them up a set of those $25.
Did you ever figure out how much money you made on just Fabulous Ones photos?
Jeez, I literally made in the thousands of dollars, probably profit, just selling them to them. Because it was in the 5 figures of, well into the 5 figures of 3.5 by 5s and well into the thousands of color 8 by 10s that we sold.
And they were out selling Lawler and Dundee when they got together?
Oh, yes. That was the thing. Lawler could still draw the big house in Memphis and the big house anywhere with the right opponent, the angle. And Dundee was the favorite of the young ladies overall for the longest period of time, but nobody ever sold pictures at the clip of the fucking Fabulous Ones. And idiot, take a picture of them doing anything and you would sell 1,000. I sold 1,000 pictures of them in a barn laying on hay. It was goddamn unbelievable. But that's the thing I'm saying is, in this territory, this size, they were grossing over $100,000 a year if Crockett or Watts, when he had the Rock and Roll Express especially, or Magnum TA in Carolinas, or the fucking Road Warriors, if they had expanded on this concept instead of, and shared some money with the boys. Because the thing is, they were supposed to share money with the boys. They just couldn't sell anything. And the Rock and Roll Express fan club, as we've noted, I think they said they took in over $1 million, and Ricky and Robert got like 21 grand a piece. But literally all these, in Baltimore and Philadelphia, you wouldn't just say $1. Those were the prices for the folks that came every week in Evansville, Indiana, and the Fair Show in Muhlenberg County. You're in fucking the Spectrum in Philadelphia, Madison Square Garden. A whole slew of the goddamn pictures when the guys became 80s rock and roll teen idols. Memphis started it all with the MTV videos and the whole thing. If they could have, Crockett could have fucking sold nude photos of the Rock and Roll Express in 1986 and made his $2 million and put it in the bank and kept it for when he needed it.
Did anyone ever say anything to Watts about the merch operation in Mid-South? I mean, specifically the guys who came from Memphis that were baby faces that know what kind of, not just what kind of money it made, but, you know, the fact that you were getting repeat customers, people that would want one of everything. If you have these female fans, this is a way to super serve them.
I think Watts, part of it was probably being old fashioned and not really wanting to investigate it further. But Watts he wasn't about to just let the boys do their own thing like Jarrett would. And he had to have a piece of it, and he probably wanted enough of it that he didn't think that it was worth keeping track of. And they did some Rock and Roll Express stuff too now. And actually, Jack Curtis was in charge of that. In the merchandise at the time we were down there, the whole merchant T-shirts and programs and things. And they did some Rock and Roll Express bandanas and T-shirts and stuff. And I think Ricky and Robert either got a cut or were supposed to get a cut, but they didn't want to go to the trouble, I guess. Plus, I don't think anybody was there to break it down the magnitude of it for him. And I'm not about to pitch him opening a fucking business with, Cornette now wants to take over Mid-South. But it just, and then with Crockett again, the merchandise was so shitty looking. And, you would get it or you see it on the catalog and go, why are they doing this? And the Horseman logo that was so rotten. But and they had no photographer in Mid-South. I took some of the pictures in the programs that you now own and possess because they didn't have any pictures of all the new guys that came from Tennessee. So I had to bring the camera a few places and take pictures of Terry Taylor and the Rock and Roll Express. And I think Magnum with a motorcycle and Duggan with a chair. Just to give them something to fucking work with, to send to Norm Keitzer.
I feel really bad for the Rock and Roll Express. They got ripped off so badly with that fan club. And now Power Town. Can't trust anyone in the Carolinas with your money.
And Dave either. Remember Dave?
Dave, that's right.
Old Dave.
It's an interesting conversation because it's also the period of time where everything was changing. 83, Vince has full control. The partners are gone. And you start seeing more merch being introduced with the big rollout, really 84, 85, with Hulk Hogan coming in. The LJNs are already being worked on in 84. But you always hear that Hogan, and yet with the Hogan story, you never know what's true and what isn't. But I've heard it before that he got pissed off because he found out that Vern had printed up a bunch of Hulkamania t-shirts and was selling them, and he didn't get a cut or anything. And when he brought it up, Vern didn't see the problem with it. You talk about old promoters and the old way of thinking. If that's true, that really is kind of the embodiment of the past versus now. Hogan leaves that deal. All of a sudden, he's selling posters and workout kits and t-shirts and bandanas everywhere and getting a cut.
If you, yes, you, Brian Last, if you'd been there, no. If the royal you, if a promoter of the status of Jim Crockett or Bill Watts or good Lord, I was going to say Fritz von Erich, but that's all that office needed was more record keeping and fucking competent personnel jobs to do. If they had gone to any of these guys and said, look, we are now not selling any pictures of you and you're making no money as a result of same. So we're going to just, at every show that we do from now on, we're going to lay out the picture table just like they used to do in Tennessee, only probably twice as long to make up for the bigger crowds. And let these girls, especially, buy these pictures of these hunky guys. And we're going to give you half of the fucking profit. And you don't have to do dick except stand there and pose for the pictures. They're already, with Crockett already paying guys in 1986, 87, 88, well into six figures, and them seeing the crowds that were there, I think all of them would say, yes, I will take half of the profit instead of jack shit, which is what I'm getting now, which means that Crockett or Watts or whoever the fuck would have got half the profit.
Well, again, with Fritz, it's a different...
As we're seeing, well, I'm just saying any big company that was drawing the bigger crowds at the during those years, Vern, whoever the fuck, could have grossed with the amount of people that were coming to their matches hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in today's money, which would be 3 times as much by doing that. Now that I sit back here and look at it, it was all a whirlwind when I was a teenager, Brian. I was so scared.
And again, Fritz was a different deal because they did do a lot of photos and everything, but they were for his kids. So it's the promoter's sons who eventually at the end of the day owned a little piece of the company, Kerry and Kevin did. But they had buttons, they had pictures, and it was all them. I mean, there weren't too many. I don't know who's buying a Bugsy McGraw photo.
Hold on here. I saw this. They still look like shit compared to the spread we had in Memphis. It would be black and white 8x10s with the fucking, well, and I'm not just putting myself over, but I will explain. the black and white 8x10s with the wrestler's name under it. If you don't know who the fucking guy is, you probably didn't need to buy his fucking picture. It was old time publicity picture style thing for a new phenomenon. The kids wanted the pictures of the free birds drinking fucking whiskey in color in gimmick, like the girls wanted the pictures of the fabulous ones wearing legitimately only strategically placed towels in front of Jerry Jarrett's goddamn pool. And the 8x10s especially, they want to put them up on their wall or put it whatever the fuck. And the other territories still had black and white 8x10s, or they would run something off cheap paper that wouldn't last, would crinkle and do all this other, and it would only be for certain people. We had a goddamn spread where you had sleeves, the plastic sleeves that each of the pictures slid under. You could slide a stack into them. So they were all under plastic. Somebody pointed, we took it out. Boom, here you go. Again, $1 for the small ones, $3 for the 8x10s. It's nice and easy, but there's like an 8-foot table at least covered with these things, and it's all colorful shit. And it's shit that they can take home and stick on their wall or put in their photo album or whatever the fuck. And it was more attractive. And if you'd done that with everybody, again, as big as these guys became in the 80s for these companies, and jack the prices up for the big towns, the big markets, the big enchiladas, but do the same fucking thing, they could have fucking gone through multitudes of these things. Multitudes, Brian. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that it's amazing that there wasn't more merchandising earlier. I mean, we're talking about the lack of things in the early 80s. It's amazing that there wasn't more being done in the early 70s. You just look at everything happening in the real world. Everything happening with toys, everything happening with sports, just everything. And there really isn't very much. Like, you see, like, every now and then, like, oh, there's a shirt, Big Dust. Like, that's the shirt they made for Dusty. And you see the stuff that Les Thatcher did in the early 70s, which was wrestler created, early days. But by and large, and Lawler, I mean, Memphis really is the outlier when it comes to just doing a lot of novelty things and then eventually just wrestling merch.
Yeah.
But there's really no one. I mean, it's one of the crazy things about the WWF. There isn't much merch, and the programs, for the most part, suck. They're very basic. If you look at any Madison Square Garden program or any house show program before 75, let's say, there's like nothing there. It gives you almost nothing.
Well, there was no centralization for quite some time in terms of every town not only had a different program title, different program style. Somebody different was writing it because somebody different was in charge of the local promotion of the town or whatever. Because they were all over the page, size, method of printing, everything. And so, you know, it was like you got the pick, or not the pick of the crop, but it was random chance, Brian. It was random chance is what I was thinking of there, that what you got, whether it was any good or not, or whether it was like whoever the simpleton was that wrote the inserts for the Indianapolis programs. You've seen those, haven't you?
Yeah.
Where they would build the most fearsome, bloodthirsty, savage wrestler ever, Ox Baker, versus the world's most scientific, clean cut and clean living wrestler, Wilbur. It was like a babbling idiot wrote those things. It was just all over the page. It just depended on who the promoter said, here, do the program. So some of them are embarrassing. Yes, to your point.
And one last thing I'll say. I know you are not necessarily a fan, or you find it old-fashioned when they have the wrestler's name at the bottom. It's a different era. But I am kind of a mark for those WWF classic 8x10s. Eventually, first they were black and white, then they were color, where they all have a uniform look for like 10 years straight.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Well, and
those weren't for sale, and those weren't for the general public unless you met a wrestler and they gave it to you, but I like the look of those.
Well, and see, that's the thing is that's exactly what they were doing with them was sending them out as publicity or having guys sign them if they were doing appearances or whatever. That's the original intent of the publicity picture. What I'm saying is where the money was made in Memphis was the repetition of the when you had for lack of a better term, the teen idol fucking fan, hooked to the Rock and Roll Express, the fucking guys, right? They're selling tons of these pictures. You make them pictures, make them different, put them in different outfits and different positions in different places. I had Lawler everywhere from in Memphis, from the Mid-South Coliseum to Memphis Comics to fucking the Pink Palace Museum to Beale Street to the goddamn airport. I told you we were driving by the airport. I'm in the car with him and I was spending the day taking pictures of him. He said, "You want to get a picture of me in the cockpit of a plane?" I said, "Okay." He went in the airport. He parked just up at the curb or whatever the fuck. I don't remember exactly where he parked, but we walked in, and I'll be goddamn if he didn't walk up to what was the hub there at the time? Was it Northwest or goddamn it? I believe it was Northwest Airlines. It was a hub at the time in Memphis. But he walked up to the counter and told him who he was, and they went and got a supervisor, and the supervisor took us to a goddamn guy at a gate who took us onto a goddamn plane. And I've got pictures of Jerry Lawler sitting at the cockpit of like a 747. Anyway.
Right. Well, this has hit the ground like a 747, but
yeah, boy. Oh, now it's way too soon, no matter which one you're talking about.
You see, Antonio Noki said, good joke.
Speaking of those negatives, some of the fruits of those labors are going to be on display on the on sale of my new book, Heroes and Friends, Pro Wrestling Remembrances, that's going to be available at JimCornette.com on Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern Time. And we've been talking about it for the last several weeks. If you now, I've been told, go to the JimCornette.com. There is a banner up there, which has been up for a while. But if you click on an appropriate button on that banner, it will take you to all the written information so you can see for yourself exactly how great that we've been telling you it is. And that goes on sale, Brian, as well as because what have we been talking about here on the program and on my show, the one that gets bigger ratings, so much over the last few months that actually for the last few years, anytime we talk about New York wrestling, but especially the Jack Pfeffer files, we have referred to the history of wrestling in Madison Square Garden, have we not?
We have.
And where do we get all that history from? Wrestling in the Garden, the book by Scott Teal at crowbarpress.com, because it's all there. So for the benefit of Mr. Kite and our listeners, at least the first 100 of them, 100 copies, limited number, of Wrestling at the Garden, the history of pro wrestling in Madison Square Garden that we have talked about and quoted facts from on so many occasions, will be on sale so you can do one-stop shopping at JimCornette.com. If you want to get both books together and learn an amazing amount of shit in a short period of time about wrestling. We're only getting 100, though, of the Garden books because we're not trying to go in competition with Scott. We have worked in conjunction with Scott for this. So that way you don't have to go to two different places, but we encourage you to go to his site too. Anyway, all that takes place on Saturday, October 11th, Brian, and it's going to be stunning and wonderful and marvelous at JimCornette.com. But you know what I got to do here today, don't you?
What's that?
I got to apologize. I am about that. I don't have to do it very often because I'm usually never sorry about anything. But, a lot of people were ticked off that I did not watch the match between Stephanie Vaquer and the other person she wrestled
Io
at
Sky.
and Io Sky.
You
and
hate her
Lollapalooza.
so much you can't even say her name now. What is happening?
I'll get to that shortly. I'm taking a drink. I'll get to that short. I'm taking a drink here today.
You need a drink. And I was the first one to be ticked off of you for not watching that match. I asked you to. You said I will. And then I asked you if you watched it. You're like, absolutely not.
Hold on. Well, see, now you're jumping way ahead of me. But nevertheless, so I didn't watch it, and people got ticked off because it's the best match of the night. God darn it. Oh, God dang it. And just vehemently, and of course, at the end of the day, when I took all those comments into consideration, I still didn't give a shit because I had to watch 9 hours of wrestling and then one day and then turn around and talk about it for a few hours here on this program with all the other shit I had going on here around here at the time. I still did not regret saving my time over a basic non-issue ladies match, regardless whether it's good or not. But one of the people that was ticked off about me not watching it brought up that I promised you that I would watch it because I completely forgot.
Liar.
No, I swear. When I'd completely forgot because like you said, oh, promise me you'll watch on one of the programs. Promise me you'll watch such and such. Okay. Well, fucking 5 days later or whatever, I didn't retain that information. So I would have watched it if I'd have remembered that I promised you I'd have watched it. So I apologize to you. Oh, great Brian Last. But it was an inadvertent.
Yeah.
Not that I regret in hindsight for the lacking the experience, but I didn't mean to blow you off after I'd promised you. So I apologize to you.
You don't have to apologize to me. I feel like it's the listenership that you owe this big apology to. Maybe even Io and Stephanie. And what a spectacular finish it was. For the record, it was the preview I think we were doing. And even in the preview, you tried to skip over it. And I said, please, you gotta watch this. This will be good. Stephanie McCur's really good. And you said, okay, I'll watch it. And we know what happened.
That left my mind pretty soon afterwards. But I apologize there. So don't worry. I watched a lot of a lot more women's wrestling than I'd have preferred to watch here in the previous 7 days as a result of that.
I will say this briefly, and we're not going to do the review right now. We're doing it a little bit later, talking about Raw. But the opening segment on Raw was kind of everything you've been complaining about in terms of the behavior, the acting. I don't even know how you can call it acting. It's like you took a kid and you said, for the first time ever, you're going to do something you've never done before. The facial expressions. Io Sky, I think, is great in the ring. But if you're someone looking for anything believable,
anything that over an 8-year-old child would enjoy, but knock him out, John.
There's no defending her acting in the segment on Raw this week. But Jim, as we get moving here, we do have some modern stuff to review. I'd like to talk to you about what you saw on SmackDown. And if you don't mind, because I kind of have a hunch you watched it because of the demand we saw.
Yes.
Can we start with the main event? Because I'm kind of dying to hear what you have to say about the three-way match, one of the most remarkable spectacles. They held me during like multiple picture-in-pictures. Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill.
Well, yes, we can start with that because that was... they went from the penthouse to the outhouse. So it's only fitting that we start in the outhouse and try to climb our way out through the hole. Cause boy, howdy. It was Jade Cargill versus our friend, the refrigerator, Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton. And did I ever think that Tiffany Stratton would be the Sherry Martel of any equation she was in? Boy, howdy. I don't know why that they had Jax in green and both the other girls in red, and it wasn't the Christmas episode. Did that because
Yeah, they were just like a tag
again,
team.
Wade looked like a tag team against the Jolly Green Giant. She looks like a fucking cedar tree with hair when she's wearing that. But see,
Swamp Thing.
Now don't body shame Swamp Thing. But they start this late in the show. So it showed me they had confidence in it to begin with, and they go 45 seconds, they go to the break. When they come back, they've only got like 10 minutes on the air. And Nia Jax is in front of the announce desk with Jade, and they are simulating fighting. They're locked together, throwing punches while they're watching for Tiffy to dive, right? And Tiffy hits the ropes, and I hope she's okay. And again, I'm not laughing about anybody getting hurt here, but again, they were snake bit. And for the people who say that, well, all Cornette does is criticize AEW and says WWE is always professional. No, I just don't see it as often in one place as I do in the other, but they were snake bit. Tiffy tries to dive through the ropes, and as she's going to dive on both of them, the spot is that Jade will move out of the way while shoving the refrigerator in front of her to catch the dive, but Tiffy caught her leg on a top rope, and it stopped her forward momentum, and she went straight down. And she wasn't even going to reach Nia Jax in any way, who had to bend over and still missed her and just fell down beside of her because she needed to. And then they fought on the floor, and Jax posted Jade and beat up Tiffy, and then Jade beat up Tiffy, and then Jax beat up Jade. And they were back to break within another 3 minutes. And okay, apparently, again, they figured, Jesus Christ, we'll show the bare minimum of this. They come back, they got 6 minutes on the air.
Did you see Nia Jax give the fans the double bird during the commercial break?
No, even on a big screen, I'm not watching the fucking picture-in-picture over a goddamn ad for vaginal refreshment or whatever's going on the network. But Tiffany and Jade double superplex Jax, and everybody sells, and that was impressive. And then Tiffany hit her moonsault, but there was a save, and they're still choreographing Jade stuff, obviously, and Tiffy is not, the most natural worker yet, but she's athletic. But it's decent. It wasn't nothing bad. And then Jade hit her finish on Tiffany, and Nia Jax pulls the referee out. And Jade rolls out and clears the desk off, and she's going to try to pick up Nia Jax and slam her, give her whatever, the super duper wing bat or whatever the fuck on the desk. And Nia gets out off of her before she gets her up and shoved her into the stairs, and Jade busts her head wide open. I mean, I saw the picture on social media after the fucking fact, and right down through her eyebrow, very close to her eye, and wide and jagged. As people used to say, I'm going to cut you wide, deep, and repeatedly. It was, but at the same time, people are blaming, well, Nia Jax crippled this and did this, and she shoved her, and you're taking your own bump into the goddamn stairs. I'm not sure how to attribute, but did she shove her? I've watched it in slow motion. It didn't seem like she catapulted her with the gravity of 1,000 suns. But boom, she just went right face first into that fucking thing. Did you see the photos, Brian?
I saw a little bit of it. I don't really necessarily like to see good-looking women with giant cuts on their face or anything, but I saw the spot, and yeah, I mean, you could say anything you want about Nia Jax being sloppy, unprofessional, hurting people, and we've seen all those examples, but it didn't seem atypical the way she threw Jade into the stairs. And
did the stairs move?
Did the stairs move when she threw her into them?
Well, yeah. Well, I was it could have been the stairs' fault. You moved. That was the old deal. If a guy had been complaining about you being stiff, you'd grab him and draw back, and you'd say, "You moved," and then punch him hard in the I guess he had to be there.
Well, Jade kept working, even though she was bleeding, and she knew she was bleeding, and it was blood droplets on the ground. The referee seemed to be in a panic, trying to figure out what to do
Yes.
next.
Well, that wouldn't be the last time. She'd be the referee. This was a she trying to figure out what to do. So Jade still, as a matter of fact, that fires you up. And I think this may be the first time Jade's ever been busted open like that, isn't it?
I certainly can't recall another time. And I do think she actually looked the best we've seen her in a while, maybe ever, in there. I mean, not to say she's Ric Flair or anything, but I didn't think Jade looked bad.
Well, no, but the thing is now this was the same thing as Michael Elgin. Remember him?
Yeah.
From years ago. He was a hot prospect and he was in Ring of Honor. He and Davey Richards had a match in Florida that became one of the independent matches of the year, and everybody was screaming at us because we hadn't made Michael Elgin the Ring of Honor world champion and signed him to an exclusive contract. He didn't actually have papers at the time to work in the country. Another thing we were trying to get Sinclair to fucking cough up. But nevertheless, it was an average match until about 15 minutes in. And Davey Richards, I believe it was go to some kind of superplex or super move off the top rope. And he come within a goddamn pubic hair, as they say, of dropping Elgin off a top rope at a high rate of speed on his fucking head and almost landing on his head himself. And it woke them both up of nearly dying. And they proceeded to have like the 5 goddamnedest minutes of a wrestling match you've ever seen in your life. People lost their shit. And that's what made it a great match. The same principle here happened with Jade. She got busted open and it fucking woke her up. She picked Nia Jax up and Samoan drops her on the fucking stairs and fires up at the camera and makes the face. Now that's some goddamn, that's the Storm. That's an old promoter's thing. If somebody got clocked and it fucking finally woke them up, that's what I want to see out of you. That's the aggression, right? And Jade rolled in and hit fucking Nia Jax with the big spinning abyss, black hole / Big Bubba Rogers Bubba Slam. And boom, 1, 2, and right then Nia Jax kicks out. And within 1 second, Tiffany is coming in with a drop kick kind of save to make the save on the thing. And I saw again that Jax was supposedly quoted as saying, well, I kicked out because Tiffany wasn't going to be there. Did you see this, or has this been verified as a comment?
I didn't see the comment or anything. I saw the spot. I didn't see anything that anyone said after the fact.
Well, if you watch it back on video and you look down, don't look at the screen, and you fucking hear the referee's cadence of his count, I think she would have been there close enough for the save that by the time she had kicked that person toward the referee, that it would have broken it up. But apparently, the comment I saw somewhere was that Jax kicked out because she didn't think that Tiffany was going to be there. But then, after she's kicked out of the thing and Tiffany kind of kicks Jade out of the way. Then Tiffany covered Jax, and she's flat as a fucking board on the ground. The referee counts 1, 2, and holds up without Nia Jax moving. Didn't kick out, didn't move a muscle. Just held up the deal before she hit the ground on the 3 count. And then they looked at each other, and the people start rumbling as it goes into outright booing. You see Jax laying on her back, just calmly looking up, supposedly covered, but talking to the referee like I couldn't read the lips. I don't know what was going on there, but it's like, what the fuck? And the referee is obviously, I don't know what they were going for. There was confusion. Tiffany got back on Nia Jax and hit her moonsault 1, 2, 3. So the finish was going to be Tiffany beating goddamn Nia. I don't understand.
Nia thought that was the finish.
It looked like it should be, except here's what I'm saying is if they were going for Tiffany making a save when Jade had her down and then stealing the win, right? Then it made sense. It didn't make sense for Jax to kick out, except that if she thought Tiffany wasn't going to be there for the save, it would fuck it up. But then she was still going to lay down. But why would the referee not have counted? Then, do you see what I'm...
Yeah, and we've seen this in AEW, I think is the most recent time where it was a clear 3 count because the person was not kicking out or even moving, and the referee stops and holds up 2 fingers and the fans start booing, which is what happened here. What do you think the referee should do? Again, live show, USA Network, main event. What should they do? Yes,
but again, I'm still trying to figure out what the finish was, and I can tell you it's easier to tell you what the referee should have done than to figure out what the fuck this was. If that wasn't the finish, then what the fuck was supposed to be the fucking finish out of that whole thing? Because they obviously had to go back to a moonsault that was flat and added afterwards. So I don't know why the referee, and again, the people are saying that, well, there wasn't heat on the referee. Well, how could there not be? If that was, but ultimately, every promoter or booker that I've ever worked for, including, I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon, I'm pretty sure I've heard this come out of his mouth on several occasions, but same thing with a Dusty or a Watts or Tommy Young, the greatest referee in the world. Almost everybody tells the referees, if the shoulders are down, count it. It's up to the guys to kick out. I have told guys in the past in OVW it wasn't a revolutionary concept. It just had to be reinforced sometimes. If the shoulders are down, the referee has to count them. It's up to the guys to kick out. Now, there are instances where if there's some fumfer for some reason, somebody else is hitting the mat doing something where it's not abundantly clear that the guy heard the referee's first 2 to know where the 3 was or what. Sometimes shit like that happens. Or you've been rolled up tight on your head and your ear is squashed by some fucking green guy and you couldn't fuck it, whatever. And you didn't hear a count. That's why the referees always count out loud. Also, 1, 2. That tries to minimize that. And otherwise, again, the referees get hooted at if they count with a shoulder up when it is the legitimate finish. They get hooted at by the fans. They're the ones that have to take the heat for that when it's obvious that a shoulder is up, which is why a lot of times, again, promoters have always taught if the shoulders aren't down, don't count it. They need to get there. So you'll see, and you've seen Brian a number of times over your fandom. The referee say, hey, give them the Iggy in the ribs, shoulder, it ain't down. They got to adjust. But I don't, and Jade was the one that had her goddamn brain just concussed, and she wasn't involved in this. It was all the people that weren't bleeding. But anyway, also, I mean, again, all Jade had to do was she hit her move, and then she just either had to be kicked out, drop kicked, shit canned in some kind of way. She got that accomplished. Somewhere in the other three, this whole thing went to shit. But that's what the referees ought to do and are usually told to do. I don't know if it's different now, but I don't remember a time when anybody, in my experience in any wrestling organization from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, or even into the 2010s, where the referee could just not count when nobody fucking moves and they're not mad at the referee.
So if the referee did what she was supposed to do, it comes back to the same thing. It was Nia Jax's fault she didn't get a shoulder up. She lost track of where she was or what part of the match it was, and it was her fault, right?
Well, but I think it was the finish, but I don't know. I don't know why they performed it so poorly that we're having to try to figure out what the finish was. But I think Nia Jax is trying to, I don't know what. That's what I'm saying. We have Nia saying, well, I kicked out because she wasn't going to be there in time to make the save, but that indicates that if Tiffy would be stealing the pin, why would the referee? I don't know. I'm saying that even if it wasn't the finish, ultimately the referee gets the heat because if the shoulders are down and nobody moves, you've got to count it. But if that wasn't somehow the finish that they already had fucked up, I don't know what was supposed to be. So I'm doubly confused. What was the finish supposed to be, Brian?
I think Tiffany hitting the moonsault, right? Didn't she do that right before the end?
Yes, that's after that they had fucking looked at each other and talked back and forth and like, oh shit, well, here, boom, I'll do this and that. They made that up afterwards. They didn't just jump right up and start doing shit again. They all stood there with, I was going to say their dicks in their hands. That'd probably not be an apropos analogy, and figured out what to do from there to continue to have Tiffy pinning Nia Jax.
And again, Tiffany Stratton's been very good, but she's someone who they drafted into the Performance Center and trained from square one. And she was kind of the ring general in there because Nia Jax is no ring general and Jade isn't either. So you have someone who has, does she have the least experience of the three of them? She may have the least experience, believe it or not, of the three of them.
Well, yes, and the crippler, Nia the crippler Jax. Maybe we ought to start calling her now the fucking from Cedar Mountain, Vermont. She's been in the business for these many years, and she's got quite a number of notches on her hospitalization belt. I mean, I don't know if you can even go by time anymore.
You know, we're at a weird time in wrestling, AEW and WWE. Men are doing moves to women, and no one's complaining. It's happening. Could a wrestler get away with calling Nia Jax a cedar tree? That's the big question I would like to know.
Well, I don't see, because cedar trees do perform a lot of wonderful functions. So they provide oxygen into the atmosphere, and they keep you from having to all year round having to look at your neighbor if they grow up high enough.
Well, I don't know if anyone would be high enough to consider that a classic, but it certainly was one of the more interesting matches of the week. Nia versus Jade versus, I wrote Jade twice, versus Tiffany.
And then Stephanie, oh, Steffi V, baby, She came out to stare at Tiffany, and I swear to you, I swear, Brian, with my hand in the air, that I will watch Tiffy versus Steffi without fail, no matter where it is or when it has, what type of streaming it's going to take place.
It's going to be Crown Jewel. I guess it'll be ESPN's app. And I think because it's in Australia this year, not Saudi Arabia, it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, well, good. Good. I can get up and take my morning Rousseau and sit down with a nice Sprite Zero and start my day in a fucking brand new way. 8 o'clock in the fucking morning.
That's right. Breakfast with WWE in Australia. But hopefully that will be good. Stephanie McCurr is a very talented wrestler. And when they were staring at each other, she was probably thinking, what was the finish? But Jim will get...
I was thinking, she's thinking, now I got to step into this mess? What the fuck?
Well, Jim, we'll get back to the mess of SmackDown and what you saw on Raw shortly. But when it comes to what we just talked about, yes. If I had asked you in advance to make some projections about how you think this will go, will there be any injuries? Will there be any botches? Do you think you would have gotten it right or wrong? Let's just say if a friend of ours like Prize Picks offered such a way to make such a projection.
So some picks is what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm gonna pick which one of these young ladies is gonna come out of the match looking like somebody's taking a hatchet to their face, or I'm gonna pick which one lays there motionless while everybody figures out what else to do when they can't figure out what else to do, and then we put the more or less than over the top of that, and that's why they have horse races. Isn't it right, Brian, that they have horse races simply to determine the upcoming standings in football so that you can pick more or less on, well, yes, because it's football season. So you can pick more or less on football games in more than 40 states now on Prize Picks. That's where, because there are still a few draconian local laws, but most of the country can get Prize Picks, and you pick more or less on pass yards or rush yards or touchdowns or all of the things that daily fantasy people do. Some of the things that people did for daily fantasies back when I was a kid, you don't do on here.
You can also make season-long projections, Jim.
Yes, see, all season long. And Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Now, that sounds kind of shady to me, but apparently it means you can pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns that I've mentioned before. You can pick all of them now. You can gang up on somebody on Prize Picks. And you can follow the other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, and boom, you got their lineups. And then you can just make your plays based on what they see. What you need to do is hijack the lineup of an expert in the field and then just make all of their plays. And then maybe sometimes you don't even have to stick it back in before they notice. They'll never be able to figure out who took it.
I can't figure out where you're going, but of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching,
well, you can copy the lineups in one click of the players that you follow directly.
If you're following the players,
whether it's a friend or a celebrity partner or just someone whose picks you like and you want to pick the pocket of their picks, you just follow them around by hitting that follow button, and sooner or later they're going to turn their head. Boom, you got their pick.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly how it goes.
Check out every lineup they create. Their life is like an open book. My God, there might even be candid photography. It's all in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. You can feed on their personal information. Folks, again, download the Prize Picks app today, and you can use the code JCE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That means if you just put $5 that you find laying around in the cushions of the couch, and you apply this toward bettering yourself by having a daily fantasy, making some money with it, well, I like that kind of girl, then they're going to give you $50 in lineups when you pay or play $5 in the lineup. And giving away money like that, I'm surprised they're not in a lineup. But they'd wear their hats. You wouldn't be able to recognize
I don't
them.
know what you're talking about. It's all on the up and up, folks. And of course, you could be on the up and up with the right projections, picking the right players and the right stats and all the other jazz. Whoa, you hear that, Jim?
Oh, I know what that means. That means you're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup with the code JCE at Prize Picks, where it's good to be right.
Still no song, just Tagada.
Yeah.
Jim, we have to return now to SmackDown. The prize and the picks, it's all over. It's back to SmackDown. What else did you see worth reviewing?
Well, we started at the end, so let's go back to the beginning because we got something, at least this week, out of our talking or one of our talking segments, but at least something came off well because when you've got Paul Heyman in the ring and you got Cody Rhodes in the ring, I won't say it's magic, but it's better than fucking watching two other people stand there and jabber at each other. And again, Paul is now, he's building the mystery as to what his relationship is with Brock Lesnar. And, you know, wouldn't you like to know? And people would like to know. And so did Cody, right? But Paul comes out, he gets his guys over. He does the little smarmy, what do you want to talk about? Like Cody. And he puts Rollins over and gets him booed. And they chant for OTC. And it's disrespectful to speak of the injured. Or how about the dog that's going to main event WrestleMania 5 or 10 times in a row, Braun Breaker? Or maybe the conspiracy theories regarding Brock Lesnar. Paul, really, I'm afraid he's liable to pop something, some kind of vein in his neck, because there's so much pressure on his neck already from the weight. But he gets everybody in. And then when they really pop on Brock Lesnar, he starts to continue. Well, let me tell you, and boom, and Cody's music interrupts him, and he gets the big cheers and the whoa and the Cody chants, and they sing his name in a mellifluous fashion. And then Cody said, yeah, I want to know, was it just a one-time thing, a one-night stand? Or am I talking to the Oracle? Or the wise man, or the advocate? You could almost hear Dusty saying, are you a warrior or an errand boy? And then Paul said, of course, you know, he gives him the smarmy Paul Heyman stuff. And I understand why you're confronting me about Brock. Everyone is in danger when he's here. But he's not even here tonight, and you're still in danger. And there's Reed and Breaker in the ring. And Paul steps out, of course, before, you know, the only thing is, I'm afraid he's going to tip the ring over when he steps out on these angles. Have you ever wondered if that could happen if there's only 2 or 3 guys in the ring when he steps on the apron? Shouldn't it tip up on one side?
I've not wondered if that would happen, no.
Well, anyway, Cody then cuts a promo on them, and it was good. He tells them how Paul double talks people. He's going to tell you you're the future, and you. And Cody, that he name dropped all the great bookers, his dad and Watts, and it said Dusty, etc. And said you always knew why they were doing something. But this one over here, nobody's figured him out yet. Who is he loyal to? Well, it ain't you. And then Braun Breaker rips his shirt off, and Cody said, well, hell, and he takes his jacket off, and the crowd is up. They're going, yes, fight, fight. And Cody says, this may be a bad decision on my part, but what the hell? And he jumps them, and he's looking good, and then they stop him, and they get a little heat, and then Orton's music plays, and he hits the ring, and he hits an RKO on Bronson, and Cody clotheslines Braun Breaker over the top rope, and Paul gets his shocked face on, And we got something. We got something out of our 15 or 20-minute talking segment, Brian. This is cause for celebration.
15 or 20 minutes. There was also a little thing at the end, too, when Randy Orton picked up the belt and looked at it. That's all it takes to tease the future. We've always thought at some point Randy has to turn on Cody, and it makes a whole lot of sense to have them get closer, or at least involved in something together, before that happens. But he gave the little look, the little, I'd still like to have this. Next to the Monday night segment, this was like The Godfather. I mean, this was all right. You're talking about 20-minute segments that don't necessarily go someplace.
Yes.
There are other examples within this week, but I think this is good. Cody interacting with Heyman brings out the best in Cody. Cody ripping off his jacket and fighting brings out the best in Cody.
Yeah, he's got the passion. That's what I think, despite some of the bad decisions they've made in his booking, has kept him where he is he's got that passion when he opens up.
And I think they've done a good job, other than the stupid name of the Vision, which I just don't like. I don't think it's good. They've done a really good job of establishing Bronson and Braun. They're now wearing matching leather jackets. They're with Heyman more than Rollins, who I think you've said it, doesn't really need him. Yeah, I like this. Good opening segment.
Well, then they gave us the Street Profits and Carmelo Hayes and The Miz. Remember when Carmelo Hayes was the number 3 draft pick, and I said, you got to be out of your mind, and I wasn't the one out of my mind, was I? Ooh. And then we got Julia and Kiana James against Mia Yim and Kayfabe. But
Mia Yim and Kayfabe. Who's Mia Yim's partner?
Kayfabe.
No, but who was it?
That's what I'm saying. Third base. Oh, B-Fab. I'm
B-Fab.
sorry. Kayfabe, B-Fab.
Even I couldn't figure out. I can't.
One of those things. But nevertheless, then by 9 o'clock, we got another talking segment. But this time, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I love Drew McIntyre. He does a great, he's the modern day Bret Hart. He complains about everything. So because that was when Bret's promos got to the next level in 97, when he actually had legitimate shit to complain about, whether it's complaining about Michaels or complaining about getting screwed or complaining about the United States treating people in Canada, whatever the fuck. That's when they got good. Drew McIntyre is brilliant as long as he keeps whining and complaining. But they then brought out Jacob Fatu, who has been missing for a few weeks or whatever the fuck. But he's not working with Solo and the motherfucking Tongans anymore. Thank God. I thought, well, do you think they just, has he been hurt, or they just said, you know what, let's just stop this shit, give him a couple weeks off and then let him interact with another human being, not of his own clan?
I hope it's that. I hope this isn't some way to get him back into a feud with Solo and the gang. At least it's something new, and it is an intriguing match.
Yes, and it's what both guys can benefit from, because Jacob's problem, and he came out and he took the part immediately of shut your ass up and stop bitching and telling Drew that he cries, he complains, he blames, sit your peg leg ass down, all that shit. And the people were chanting Fatu, Fatu. And then when they kept snatching the microphone away from each other also, which I thought was good, instead of standing there with both of them, with one in each hand and just responding to each other, they would interrupt each other. And then finally, Drew headbutted him, sucker headbutted him, but Jacob super kicked him and pulled Drew's non-WWE medically approved walking boot off and hit him over the head with it, knocked him out. Jacob working with Solo, or it was like watching Jacob work with a great value version of Jacob. They had the same style, same build, same approach. It was boring. And Solo's promos were not really captivating either. With Drew, he's one of the best talkers in the company. And also, he's tremendously athletic, but he has a completely different style than Jacob Fatu does, but I think it will mesh well. And Jacob can't do long soliloquy promos, but he's perfect in short bursts. Shut your ass up. I'm going to tell you off, and it were a fight. And he needs a guy that can sell as animatedly as Drew for his big shit, but still is big enough to get him down and as a babyface get sympathy on him. So this I'm looking forward to. Yes.
All right. Anything else from SmackDown?
Well, you know there was, brother, to quote Gary Hart. Where has he been all my life? Javon Evans. I know where he's been. He's been in NXT. We saw Javon Evans. Why did we watch NXT? What happened that made us watch it?
Well, I've seen him a little more than you. It may have been when NXT debuted on CW. We watched it for like the first 2 weeks or something.
But there you go. And I know people online, oh, Cornette will love, or not Cornette will love, but we love Javon Evans. What will Cornette say? And I haven't, I remember saying, well, he's painfully thin. And he's still painfully thin. But if they've had him in the program, and since then, I don't know how long he's been there at the start, but he's evidently a quick learner. Part of it benefited that he was with Sami Zayn, and Sami can work. We've always said that. But he had a tremendous performance. And I know you say, well, it helped he was in Orlando because that's where NXT is, but NXT draws, 200 people, and there were 10,000 in Orlando, and they were all going crazy for the guy. So it can't just all be NXT friends and family, can it?
It can't. I think he is someone who connects with the crowd, though. And some people knew who he was, and I think he won over other people by having a competitive match where at times it looked like he may, and you could even think about it and go, well, this could be a way to make somebody. But it looked like at a couple points he may win.
Yeah, and again, they had a good match in terms of building the new guy. And you see that they try to do it in AEW, but they just think that a regular match where they do all their regular shit, but longer, is the way to get a new guy over. This guy's answering the U.S. title challenge that Sammy's got out. Even though they bill him at 190 pounds, and bless him for that, he could use a Cheerio for a hula hoop. But, at least they're trying to bring some fucking credibility into it. I don't think he can weigh 190, but he can work. The difference here is they're not just doing moves. Technically, he was fine. He was there for everything. He didn't fuck up anything or botch anything. The timing, reactions, he had facials. His shit was sharp, but it was safe. He took great bumps, but he's got the leaping ability. He didn't rush. He's a beanpole with all the potential in the world. And it's a babyface match, and that's how Sammy got a little babyface heat during the break, but the whole thing was built to feature him, as I said before, rather than just having a long, regular match. Evans hit a big dive on Sammy at 10 feet out from the ring, from inside the ring over the top rope, and Sammy was down the aisle. And a spinning kick and got a 2 count. And then they did some more shit, and then again, Evans foiled Sammy and hit a Hurricane Run off the top rope and got a 2 count. The people are chanting, this is awesome. This kid is foiling what Sammy's trying to do more and more. They've built it at first to where Sammy had control, but then they let him break out. And then They did a back and forth, and you thought there's Sammy's going to hit him with the kick, but he missed the kick. And fucking Evans hit the biggest Cody cutter ever. Like 10 feet above the top rope for a 2 count, and people started chanting, "Ref, you suck." They wanted him to beat Sammy, but they were going crazy. And then Evans missed off the top rope and rolled up to come back, but into a kick, and then the Blue Thunder Bomb, 1, 2, 3. Sammy won by the skin of his teeth against this guy because he underestimated him. They built the story perfectly. They didn't do a million high-risk things. They did the ones that mattered. They didn't use any furniture. They didn't bury the referee. Nobody looked like he almost broke his fucking neck and was paralyzed, but the crowd went apeshit. And obviously you still need to tune this guy a little bit. I wouldn't do the Cody cutter, no matter whether you call it a different name or not, 10 times higher and 10 times better than Cody is actually going to ever be physically able to do it. But he can do so many things. You hit the things, feature the things that he can do that nobody else can, and don't let anybody else do that. This is a guy that if I had him on the roster, then I would just say, okay, nobody else will dive out of the ring over the top rope on anybody. Because this guy's is the best and the rest of it's just bleh. And that gets this guy over. Or that nobody else is going to do the quadruple backflip, whatever the fuck this guy's shit is, because he's not just a trained circus chimp doing fucking moves. He's doing like, I can walk up here and balance myself and backflip off the top rope. But the other guy's got a weight on me, and it doesn't look like I'm mad about anything. I've got a blank look on my face. I'm executing shit that I've memorized. There's none of that. He's got oomph to him. So this is the guy that you then say, okay, this is going to be what gets him over, and it makes his size more palatable by giving him another superhero feature that nobody else has. And that's how you make something like that special. But it'll still stand out, but in a company where everybody is doing a variety of diving of things, it's not going to be as big of a fucking deal. But I like this kid. He's got it mentally, apparently. So, bravo.
Oh, wow. That's the highest thing you can get here on the show. The applause from you.
I clapped 4 times.
I believe he's young. I want to say 22 years old or something. And I've watched him in NXT. The fans have really gotten into him, and he's good. He's skinny, but, David Von Erich was skinny at the very beginning, and he never really filled out much from that point forward.
No, God damn it. No, wait a minute now. Put a picture of Kevin standing next to this guy. But here's the thing. I hope he doesn't gain too much weight, but he needs to gain some. If he could maybe in the appropriate ways and kind of gradually all over his body, he could put on 20 or 25 pounds maximum. Then maybe that, but if he gets too much heavier.
Okay, Dr. Zahorian. All right.
Well,
if you could just put on some mass.
Well, no, but if he gets too much heavier, he won't be able to do the stuff that that is unique to him, and or might accentuate the possibility of injury. But I'd like to see him, just for the sake of being able to knock something down, even flying at him, I'd like to see him another 20 pounds maybe, or whatever, all distributed around.
In general, but also specifically about this, what do you think of just the idea of bringing up someone who, for lack of a better term, is a top prospect in your company? He's young. People have started to notice that just about all of WWE's top guys right now are aging out or about to. They're getting older. Braun Breaker's a breath of fresh air. He's younger. So you have someone who, unless he's a head case, you could build on for the future, potentially. What's the benefit of, I guess the question's about just the idea you bring people up now and you beat them. Sure, they have long competitive matches, and this isn't the first time we've seen this with someone. They have a long competitive match, but they lose. Again, we don't know what the plans are for him, if it's to go back down or to stay up here, but what do you think of him losing versus him winning in a situation like this? Especially with the fans reacting the way they did.
Yeah, and see, that's why they are a little bit smarter over here and do things a little bit better so the people take them appropriately. This was a babyface match. The people like Sammy, but they got behind the underdog. It gives a different, and then Sammy builds the whole match to feature the guy's big moves and to create the doubt where it looks like he's going to win. It looks like he's going to win. He doesn't even need the win at that point because especially then, well, he needs to be the U.S. champion from now on. But that's the kind of example of coming that close and just coming up short helps a guy. It wasn't that they brought this young babyface in, had him work with a heel, and after 25 or 30 minutes, the heel just beat him, and then you don't see him again. This is a way to show the guy's talent, but he's going to still not just debut at the number 3 draft pick at the top of the charts. But I would assume we'll be seeing more of him. It's just it makes sense. It's more logical to feature a guy in especially in a babyface match where wrestling is the key, and there's no harm in losing to Sammy because he's the experienced veteran, etc. But you can't. That's you can build around Javon for the future because he's 22 years old. But this incarnation of Javon Evans will not ever be the guy like Bron Breakker. We know that because, yes, he can be the next Sami Zayn. Every bit as big as that. Maybe even bigger. Maybe the next Rey Mysterio. Or he's going to be popular as a babyface with that level of athletic ability and that level of underdog charisma that he showed. But at the same time, who's not to say that a 32-year-old Javon Evans, who may or may not have hurt his knees by then, might have slowed down and stayed a little bit more on the ground and put another 30 pounds on and is really jacked up and becomes the next goddamn Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart. Right now, we don't know because he is so young. But he's already, to me, ready for a upper mid-card position as a really exciting underdog babyface that can hang out around there for a couple of years and get better. And then we see what happens to him. But he's got all the time in the world.
Well, again, high compliments from you, and maybe at some point in the next few weeks we should revisit NXT, see who's currently down there on the farm.
God damn it.
See who's down on the farm and, just see what the future could be.
Every time that I say something nice about somebody, it comes back to bite me in the ass.
I'll make this easy for you. I will say that you should not watch any of the women's segments, only the men's segments of NXT.
We'll discuss that during the next show conference with the Arcadian Vanguard board.
Was that the end of SmackDown?
It was, as far as I was concerned. Yeah, we talked about the main event fiasco, the main event massacre. Blood was spilled. We talked about that at the start.
Well, Jim, before we get to WWE Raw, I got an email that just came in from WWE. John Cena's final match ever, VIP packages on sale now.
Oh boy.
I have not purchased a WWE ticket since 1995, so I don't know why they're sending this to me, but I got it. Let me click this.
Well, you're a media mogul. They're probably wanting you to spread the word like you're doing now.
In the email is a picture of John Cena. It says, the last time is now, December 13th, Capital One Arena, Washington, D.C. Witness history. with Priority Pass access. For the final time ever, the legendary John Cena will step into the ring. With Priority Pass VIP access, you'll secure premium seating and exclusive WWE experiences to make this once-in-a-lifetime farewell unforgettable.
Make it once in a lifetime.
Secure your spot now, only with On Location, the official hospitality provider of WWE. And this is like a lock in my package. Here's what we can get. We can get the gold package. There are two packages offered here. The gold package, which is ticket and priority pass, December 13th, 2025. Lower or upper level seating. Access to John Cena.
Wait a minute, that's kind of a wide range, isn't it? You're either in the lower level or you're in the upper level.
Yeah, that is a little weird. The lower/upper level.
How many levels is there in the goddamn building? You either have to be in a lower one or an upper one. What are the? You're in the horizontal section? What? You're out in a parking lot? Where else is there?
It doesn't specify if it's the mezzanine or not, but
what about the loge?
Loge reserved, possibly. You get access to John Cena memorabilia display.
Wait a minute. You get to look at his shit.
You get, and I don't know exactly what this is. It just says John Cena gifting. Do you give him a gift? Or is John Cena?
Yes, you're allowed to. You come up. It has to be wrapped in a certain way. He wants to like his yellow color with his blue, and you come up and you genuflect before him. You go down to one knee and you place the gift at his feet and then exit to the right. You're allowed a special John Cena gifting.
Also, an all-inclusive pre-show hospitality with appearances by John Cena and WWE superstars. Also a dedicated Priority Pass entrance, WWE credential and lanyard. And professional...
Wait a minute, doesn't that kind of make the rest of the boys look like the Pips? John Cena and the WWE superstars. How many are they going to troop the whole crew in there? Or you're going to get fucking Tozawa?
Well, you also get professional on-location, on-site support staff. $900 a ticket.
Jesus Christ!
That's the first package.
So wait, hold on a second now. Going back through that, what do they actually give you that would cost any money? They're selling you a ticket, and above that, what would cost them any money whatsoever to do? To let you look at things and show you people and...
See, I think the value would have come if they actually had free parking, but it doesn't say that here. You get a ticket to the upper or lower level. You get access to a memorabilia display, which... What does that mean? You could take a picture in front of a wall of pictures? Like, what does that mean exactly? John Cena gifting is still ambiguous. Is there anything on here that says what that is? Nothing says what John Cena gifting is. Hospitality with appearances. So I guess a meet and greet. I mean, that costs money. Hospitality, maybe, but
it doesn't cost them any money. These people are already there. They're being paid to be there. The superstars. Oh, go out and meet these fucking suckers.
Credential and lanyard.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. 50 cents down at Kinko's.
Well, that's the gold package. Not everyone can afford ringside. Jim, the champion package.
Uh-oh.
Ticket and priority pass, December 13th, 2025. You get premium floor seating. Premium floor seating.
So no upper bowl.
Also, a photo op with John Cena. So you actually get to get your photo with him.
And here's another thing. Is that with your phone? Or do they have a professional photographer there that will give you your digital photo printed?
I'm guessing it's your phone, but I don't know.
So again, what do they got in this?
John Cena gifting, also available here, whatever the hell that means. All-inclusive pre-show hospitality.
Give the gift of John Cena all year round.
Once again, the all-inclusive pre-show hospitality with appearances by John Cena and WWE superstars. The other people get to go to that too. Is that where the photo op is? Do the other people just get to watch all the other fans get photos of John Cena?
No, wait. If they did, it would be mentioned in their package. Watch others have photo taken with John Cena.
You also get a ringside photo op. Talk about things they weren't selling at the gimmick table back then versus now. You never thought about the idea, hey, give us some money, we'll just let you go to ringside and take a picture next to the ring. But that's what they're doing. Also, premium reserved seating at 6 feet under with The Undertaker. Where you get to watch The Undertaker and his wife have coffee time. Also, access to the John Cena memorabilia display, a credential and lanyard, and professional on-location, on-site support staff. $6,500 a ticket.
Jesus Christ! That escalated quickly. $900 to $6,500. Is there
and they're blind emailing people because again, I don't buy WWE tickets, and somehow they sent this to me. They sent this to me on location. Sent this to me. I would assume actually
there would have to be some kind of on location private meet and greet at the fucking Bunny Ranch for $6,500 for fucking me to be interested in.
Here's the
purchasing that ticket.
Here's the form at the bottom of the page here on the website. First name, last name, the usual stuff. Will you be purchasing on behalf of yourself or your company? And you have to mark myself or my company. Yeah, so someone's using company funds. Hey, let's all get together. Instead of going to Club Getaway, let's go to spend all of our money at WWE. And there it is. 2 packages offered. You know, again, we're talking about the changing times and catching up. Imagine gimmick sales like what they had in Memphis now with how much money wrestling fans will spend now. You talk about marking up 8x10s. Imagine what you could do with that now.
But no, you couldn't. Not the same way because they're only in Memphis once a year. I've only got access to 10,000 people one time a year to buy these pictures instead of 7,000 or 8,000 people 52 times a year. No wonder they need to charge $6,500. They've got a fucking tenth of the amount of people. But that, again, that's insane. That's per ticket per person. And we were just talking about a business model where multitudes of people regularly every week or every 2 weeks or every month paid $4 or $5 or $6 for their ticket or $1 for their picture or $2 for their magazine, but they did it week after week, month after month, year after year, some decade after decade. Whereas now they get $6,500 from a guy to basically tell his wife or his kids or whatever, yeah, I want to go spend little dipshit's used car money for his first car on one fucking wrestling ticket. Huh.
Well, there it is. I mean, the other thing you worry about, and they haven't had this problem. They've been really lucky, but in the past, I saw it with baseball. You know, we're talking 25 years ago, it really started getting bad, 30 years ago, where ticket prices went up and tickets were sold. But instead of having the really baseball-hungry, aggressive fans sitting down by the dugout or down by the field, you had companies. Sony used to have them. I used to sit in the Sony seats right behind home plate. No one was making any noise because a lot of them didn't care about baseball. It was company tickets from this company, from that company. So you get a lot of people who they'll attend the thing, but they don't make noise. But again, WWE has not really had that problem. I don't know about the little corner where Nick Khan sits with the VIPs.
I would know the fans make plenty of fucking noise. I wish they'd shut up sometimes.
Well, we'll stay on top of the story of WWE ticket prices and Cena's last match.
The rich bastards control everything. Now they got all the good seats.
Well, Jim, one of the things that levels the playing field, and one of the great things about America,
yeah,
is that you can right now go to your garage. Well, you can go anywhere, but you could start a business. You can come up with an idea.
You can go to hell if you want to.
You can go wherever it is you want to go. But the point is, we're basing this on ideas. We're basing this on ingenuity. We're basing this on entrepreneurialism. We're basing this on the ability to create something and become a billionaire tomorrow, but you have to start somewhere today. And of course, you need help. You can't just do it all by yourself.
Well, no.
You need a partner you could trust, a partner who understands commerce, a partner who understands how to get your products all over the place. And we're talking about our friends at Shopify.
Well, if you want to become a billionaire in one day, you need a partner that understands the nuclear codes. But otherwise, it's going to take a little longer. But folks, if you want a partner to join with you at the hip and take you every step of the way, to create your own business, to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, to live the American dream while it's still possible, which could be by tomorrow, then you need Shopify, because they are packed with helpful tools to get your business off the ground. They're going to take you from well, there you go. They're going to take you from that, and they're going to turn you into a whole one-man band with a whole daggum percussion section and a tuba and an organ. And folks, you're going to feel like that somebody has taken your organ and put it through the ringer. Because
you're not going to feel like that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why we would say you're going to feel like that.
I'm telling you, because it's hard work. Part of the achieving the American dream is getting in there and working hard. And Shopify is going to make you work hard to take your idea and make it become a reality, to create your own business, to take control of your own destiny, to provide for your family and your children in uncertain times. They're going to be out there with you on the sidewalk when you're selling that apple out of a tin cup. They're going to be out there with you when you're selling pencils to blind people. They're going to be out there making money with you from the very bottom to the very top. And then when you get to the top and you're making millions, you're going to turn around and you're going to say, "Where's my money?" And Shopify is going to say, "Here you go." And they're going to hand you most of it. And
they're going to, let's just say the deal you have with Shopify is the deal they're not just going to hand you over most of it. You will get your money. And that's the Shopify way. That's the Shopify promise.
That's the American way. And Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise. That's what you're going to be paying for in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. You're going to be selling stuff out of that garage or that tiny one-bedroom apartment or whatever type of dungeon-like apparatus you may sell your product out of. You're going to be selling it faster than you can hear the word ka-ching. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Turn your big business idea into reality with Shopify on your side and turn your proceeds from jack all of goose shit and a big round duck egg to cha-ching. Sign up for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. $1 a month trial period. That way you know you're not going to become a billionaire in just a month, but at least you'll only lose $1. $1 a month trial period with the code JCE at shopify.com/JCE.
Oh, Jim, you know what that means? That, of course, means there's still more WWE to talk about here.
I thought it was a riverboat.
Why don't we... A riverboat? What river?
The river of no return.
Well, let's go back to the state of euphoria, wherever we are over here. WWE Raw aired last night as we are recording.
Boy, howdy, it sure did.
I still try to watch it live because I find that I'll watch more of it live than if I have to go and fast forward through it or whatever on DVR. And I keep forgetting they have a new start time, so I keep tuning in at 8 o'clock. And then at 9:30 when it ends, I'm like, what happened? So I got to remember, it's 7 o'clock now.
Yes, well, tape a note to your computer screen where you do all your big business. Remember to watch Raw because you don't want to miss an acting experience, a theater in the round type of emoting like we have never seen. Folks, it was like that the Actors Studio met the Stanislavski method, and there was Betty Davis, and oh, those Betty Davis eyes. This was the single cringiest, phoniest, fakest, most childish what the fuck that I have ever seen on. This was not even routine AEW stuff. This took it to a whole new level. And you alluded to it earlier in the program, Brian, when we were talking about it, but now the time is here. Can you in any way defend the performances of Io Sky, Carrie Sane, and Oscar the Grouch that we saw poor Rhea Ripley mired into on Raw?
Poor Rhea Ripley, come on.
She comes out again, looks like a movie star. She talks like a goddamn movie star. She wrestles like a movie star. She's the most over woman on the roster, and she comes out and she has to interact with this group of, I can't even, amateur thespians would be a compliment to what this was. It's also, you cannot tell me that it is not a racial slap in somebody's face to make these women act like they are acting, or act as stupid as they're acting. And it made it for phony wrestling. So if anybody's, what are they trying to cool Rhea Ripley off on purpose because I've anointed her as the next female action star in the movie business, that she's too big for all of this, that she needs to go on to Hollywood, and now they're trying to cool her off by making her swim around in this pool of amateurs? To go ahead and defend any of this, the EOs and the Carries and the...
Well, I didn't think I was going to defend any of it, but based on what you said, there is a little bit I'll defend. Let me just say with Rhea, maybe she is going to the movies. Not in a bad way, like some others we've seen, but she's noticeably dropped a lot of weight. And again, usually when people do that, they're going to auditions to try to get a role or something. So it makes me wonder if that's what's going on there. The critiques you just had in this segment of Asuka and Kairi Sane, I don't think are necessary. Because I didn't think they were the problem here. I thought one person was the problem here.
Well,
Io Sky,
all three had a hand in it.
Io Sky was embarrassing in this segment. And the facial reactions from the moment she walked out. I remember thinking, oh, I've never seen her walk out and not do like that weird, dip, that little dance that she does that kind of, I think was one of the things that originally from the moment she came out turned you off to her. Just like, what is this shit? She didn't do that. She walks out there regular, but when you get to her face, she's making almost like childish facial expressions to attempt to illustrate that she's upset, but it was so unbelievable. Lee Strasberg said no. No, it was just so unbelievable.
It was a frozen crying face with no tears.
It was really bad. Again, I didn't have a problem with Asuka and Kairi Sane. They were the heels who ran in there and caused a bunch of damage and did a bunch of shit.
Hold on.
An amazing elbow drop from Kairi Sane. I just thought Io Sky, this may have gone a little long, but I thought I thought Io Sky was specifically, and I've defended her and I defend her in-ring work to you, but this was really embarrassingly bad, I thought.
Rhea Ripley comes out there and she's mad at Carrie and Oscar for what they did to Io, and they've misted her also, Oscar has. And she calls them out, and out come the Kabuki Warriors, but instead Io came out, as you said, with it's a frozen crying face with no tears, like that's if she just scrunches up real hard that people will think that she's crying and upset, and it breaks her heart to say it, But Rhea, you were right about Asuka and Carrie. But they're my family and I still love them. And the crowd boos that. And again, why is she being presented, made to talk, allowed to talk like this, like she's 8 years old and a mental simpleton? And then Oscar and Carrie pop up on the screen with subtitles. Oscar's talking. Part of it's English, part of it's Japanese, but there's subtitles. But while she is cutting the promo that, well, you know, what you call it, EO can apologize. And then both you and Carrie can be my students again. And Carrie is next to her nodding and smiling like she's doing a hostage video, like she's scared of this woman. And just please do what she says, EO, and then you can come home and I won't have to act like I'm crying also. Why is she 8 years old? We can be family again. What all this material, is this for take your daughter to work day? What is this for? And then they said, but for Rhea, it's too late. And I'm like, Rhea looks like she could kick the shit out of all three of you people. But then EO again was looking like she was going to throw up to try to register the upset that she has over these horrible threats. You won't be able to be our family anymore on the wrestling show. And Rhea tells Asuka to go to hell and says, EO, you have to trust me. You can't go back to them. And then EO makes another scrunch face and no tears. And EO says, I'm sorry, Rhea. And she screams, I need time. And she leaves the ring to faint murmurs from the crowd who is fed up with this fucking idiot. Why the fuck would you want to go back with these people? This whole is so childish. And Rhea having to reason with this girl like she's giving advice to her young niece. They're all presented like they're simpletons. And then Oscar and Carrie jump in the ring and jump on Rhea and start beating the shit out of her. And EO turns around. And it looked like that she was either to try to act like she was conflicted as to what to do, whether to make the save or not. She was Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk, or she was trying to shit a porcupine. I'm not sure which. Can you deny that either of those descriptions, Brian?
Again, I don't think you are being unfair about Io Sky's performance in this. I thought it was embarrassing.
So then finally she says, oh, hell, I'll go on in there. And she went in and threw Asuka down, and Carrie overacted. And Io made weird faces and stagey waving arm motions and screeched. And then Asuka sprayed Io in the eye, in the IOs. And then I sprayed Io in the IOs. And then Rhea tackled Asuka, but Carrie jumped Rhea, and Rhea beat up Carrie, but went to give her the riptide. And then, continuing in the streak of women's matches on the WWE program containing the botches, Rhea's going to give the riptide, and Asuka comes from behind with a roundhouse kick that was supposed to hit Rhea in the head, but that completely missed her, wasn't even close. And everybody saw it. And then Rhea was like flinched, like, oh, shit, I didn't feel anything, but I was supposed to sell it, and just kind of let go of the hold. And the crowd went, oh. And then they posted Rhea Ripley twice, gave her 2 back fists and an elbow off the top rope. So the only legitimate professional in the ring of this band of merry misfits that either botched physically or verbally or fucking performance-wise, thespianly, was the one that was left laying in the middle of the ring and everybody beat her up. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, this seemed a bit convoluted.
Yeah.
On top of the bad acting, it went a while. And yeah, I don't think anything negative you say about Io Sky's performance of this is unfair. She was terrible here.
What? But who's approving these things? Are there no prisons, no workhouses? Who's the producers and who's the
Jean-Paul
head?
Levesque.
Well, I mean, who's encouraging this? As Dusty said one time, who's the head, you bangy? The fuck?
Well, Raw's off to a great start. What else did you see on Raw, Jim?
Well, Rusev wrestled Dominic Mysterio, and Dominic beat him with a ball kick and a tight pull. And Bailey wrestled Raquel, and Lyric ran in, and they fought. And LA Knight beat Kofi Kingston, and none of this was grabbing my lever or tickling my taint. About an hour and a half into the match, here comes Seth Rollins. And I think, okay, well, we're back in the main event scene. See what's going to go on here. And Brian, they sang "Whoa" forever. And then they chanted CM Punk. And then they chanted OTC. And then they sang Cody Rhodes. And I was screaming, let him talk. His entrance started. And 5 minutes later, Seth Franklin Rollins said his first word.
Well, he milks it too. At some point, he could just say, he could stop them. He could say, I'm a heel. Let me stop these fans having a great time and deliver.
You know what would really stop him, what would get him started is that they'd stop on their own and say, okay, motherfucker, we bought a ticket to see you, not to sing to you. You do something for us.
Well, actually, I think some of those fans may have bought a ticket so they could sing to him as opposed to actually care about what he's going to do. That's where we are.
I understand milking crowds and getting reactions. We taught that at wrestling school. That's as old as the hills. The problem is they've never before in history have we had crowds where they're just happy to just sit there and sing and chant names instead of actually getting to the point of any fucking thing. Anyway, it's 1-on-1 at Crown Jewel, which is not in Saudi Arabia. It's in Australia. Wallaby darned. It's in Australia. And the winner is not only the Crown Jewel champ, but according to Seth, the winner will decide the direction of the industry for the next 10 or 20 years. What kind of math is he doing? He knows how old he is. He's going to be doing this till he's like 50-7 or what? What's happening here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know if that makes too much sense. Last year, Cody beat Gunther at Crown Jewel.
Where is Gunther?
He's, I guess, taking time off. When was the last time we saw him? Was it SummerSlam?
Son of a bitch. I'd like to get, if Brock's going to be around, maybe we'll get that out of the thing. That would be just swell. But anyway, Seth talked for 5 minutes. I don't know. Hold a gun to me. I don't know what the fuck he said. He's talking to people. And then Cody's music played and his entrance and his chants, and they sang Cody Rhodes again. And it was about 3 minutes from the time the music started till he got in the ring and actually spoke a word. And then he wants to know who's in control, Seth or Heyman, that thing. And that's good. That's story is fine. I think it could be told in much less time. And Seth is saying that everything goes through him, all the decisions, but he's touchy about it. And they proceeded to go back and forth for about another 5 or 6 minutes. And then Seth left. And this whole thing was 20 minutes for them to come out, be serenaded, talk to each other, and leave without any revelations or revolution.
Yeah, this was a big, long ball of nothing. Took forever, went nowhere. They're doing the match. It's just weird how they're doing a lot of these things. It seems like these things just pop up, and then there's a big event or a pay-per-view or Saturday's main event, right around the corner. It's almost like a weekly wrestling promotion promoting weekly events, but it's just one big central event. But they're coming so fast and frequent now, the builds seem off. And I'm sure it'll be a good match, but it just feels like they're rushing into it.
They had a period of time there, and remember we talked about it, where they had, they could do this match, that match, the other match. They go so many different directions. Now they're doing all those matches, but they're kind of coming. It's been a while since some of them were called for, but they got to do something to make, because fuck, they're just a poor sports entertainment company trying to make a living in this brave new world. They're hurting for money. They need to make $50 or $100 million every time the sun rises, or elsewise they'll be out of business. Anyway, there was one more thing that I saw on this program, Brian, which was the main event, the tornado match with the Usos and the Bronze, Reed and Breaker, where it's all four guys in the ring is legal, no disqualification, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm loving Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed as a tag team. And that's what we've needed, is two guys together that are both at the main event level to be in team matches so that it means something. And I get that the Usos are, by virtue of that they were tag team champions for so long, and they built up how they were allegedly the greatest team of all time because of that, et cetera. I can't look forward to Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker wrestling if they're wrestling the Usos, because as over and popular as the Usos are, Brian, they're the shits, aren't they? As an actual wrestling tag team, aren't they kind of the shits?
They're not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of the way they work.
And again, it's two of them doing the same thing. It's sort of like when one of the Samoans wrestles the other one of the Samoans. It's now we got two guys on one side doing the same. It just, anyhow, Braun Breaker for a break spot. I see what they did there. The breaker spot came off the railing of 10 feet to the announce desk and clotheslined Jimmy and just knocked him ass over tea kettle, and he was out. So then the next segment, they come back and they're getting heat on Jay, but it's 2-on-1, two heels and one baby face. And it was long, but here's the problem. The way that you do this angle where they've taken one partner out and the heels get heat by being 2-on-1 with one guy sidelined is when it's a regular tag team match, when the heels are tagging in and out, but the fresh man can always come in so that the babyface can't capitalize on his little underneath flurry because the guy tags out and boom. And the heat comes from they're taking advantage of the numbers instead of breaking the rules. Well, here there are no rules. And it's just two heels beating up one baby face, and the referee has to stand there and look at it. But finally, they're going to splash Jay, and Jimmy came back and made a comeback. And even with his ribs hurt, boom, 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 he was able to do some shit until Bronson Reed hit a Death Valley driver and Braun Breaker speared Jay. And they stacked him up. We're going to go to splash him. And Roman's music plays. And here comes Roman out carrying a chair. And he gets a big pop. But, Brian, did you notice there's the Usos laying there unconscious in the ring when his music starts playing? The camera goes to the entranceway. Here comes Roman Reigns. By the time he gets to the ring, the Usos have disappeared. They're not in the ring. They're not even visible on the floor anywhere. They're hiding somewhere. Did you notice that?
Bloodline magic.
So he shit cans Breaker. He hits Bronson Reed 5 times with the chair. Then he beats up Braun, rolled him back in the ring, and the Usos double teamed him. Double super kick, and double splash. and beat Braun Breaker 1, 2, 3. So the baby faces, the odds were even. It was 2-on-2, but they needed help from the third guy to even things out. And then Roman Reigns beat Braun Breaker up 5 times more with the chair, and fucking off they went. And Roman and Jimmy shook and hugged and pep talked and all that stuff. And Jay was in the middle of the camera shot being left out of the little confab there. But was this constructed oddly to where in the summation of things, when it was 2 against 2, the baby faces couldn't handle things, but when the third guy came out with a chair, well, that helped them win.
Well, the other thing, too, is this whole episode almost felt like Vince was in charge. Everything was drawn out so much. Like, especially here at the end. Took forever for everything to go down. Took forever for Roman to walk out. Took forever for him to get his beating in. Him and Jay were just standing there holding each other for quite a little while. You know, again, it feels like it's a cooling down in a lot of ways, even though there's a lot of star power and a lot of tickets being sold, but not a lot is happening. Not a lot seems to... Not having booking logic isn't just a Tony Khan issue at times, and it may not be as egregious and things may not be as chaotic and Khan-like as they are in AEW, but it doesn't mean everything in WWE is done the right way or makes the right sense, or makes any sense.
Sometimes they do confuse me too over here. But the Bronze are getting over it. Boy, it takes 3 of the top Samoans to kick their ass. So fuck, watch out for these 2 guys. That's what I've got to say.
Well, that was WWE Raw, Jim. And of course, if you watched all of that wrestling from WWE and you were expecting action, you may say, where's the beef? Or you may say, I'm going to sue.
Or you may say, where's my lawyer? Well, I'll tell you where he is. He's in Beckley, by God, West Virginia.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or 2. He'll sue the rest.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the man that is the subject of that chart-topping hit, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE, can take your case, as a matter of fact, he can take your case and turn it into a whole steamer trunk. That's what he can do. He can get you paid in gross tonnages of money. You will have to measure the money that he will get you awarded in court on a scale, ladies and gentlemen, because that's the way the Stephen P. New operates. If somebody has screwed you around, and remember, they got to have some kind of resources to begin with. You can't just sue a goddamn homeless bum on the street. I guess you could, but you're only going to get a stink. But you can get money from people with money, and if they've done something wrong, Stephen P. New will find out and get you that money. 877-50-STEVE, newlawoffice.com. Get even with Stephen.
All right, this is where we have arrived. Yeah. We are here. We have arrived. And
he is here.
We are now going to fill up the rest of the show with fun and hilarity and as much
the likes of which they've never seen before.
I've got a few things here by popular demand we kind of have to get to. Jim, we have Dave Meltzer's star ratings for a couple recent events.
Oh, Christ.
I think this first one may be brief, but here are the Dave Meltzer star ratings as seen in the Wrestling Observer newsletter for WWE WrestlePalooza. Brock Lesnar beat John Cena 8 minutes 49 seconds, 2-star match.
Oh, come on. At this point, yes, it left something to be desired as far as when we got to the finish, you're like, well, that was something. It was a little flat, but it's still John Cena. It's Brock Lesnar. The people were in it, and all the shit that they did was just fine. They just didn't do much. So are we really going to give the Flying Zamboni brothers on the tightrope 5 stars and give Cena and Lesnar 2?
Well, Jim, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed defeated the Usos with LA Knight as a special referee. 16 minutes, 50 seconds, 3 1/4 stars.
See, I've just got finished here a few minutes ago saying how much I like Reed and Breaker, and the Usos are over. Their in-ring work is bleh, in my opinion. But I don't see how, given those conditions, you can give that match 3.5 stars just because it had a finish he liked better than John Cena and Brock Lesnar getting 2 stars with a rotten finish.
Well, Jim, the big controversial match for you.
Let me ask you this. Is it now, if this was America's Got Talent or American Idol, do we give extra points to the singers if they just sing loud and a lot? Or can they just sing real good for a short period of time, or that doesn't work?
Well, I get the point you're making, but Jim, the match people were talking about, Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky. Stephanie Vaquer won 19 minutes, 42 seconds to win the world's women's title. World women's title, not multiple worlds. World women's title.
How many worlds have collided here? What world are you in right now?
4 1/4 stars.
All right. You don't need to rub it in. I missed it. I'll never see its like again.
CM Punk and AJ Lee defeated Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. 29 minutes, 15 seconds, 3.5 stars. And finally, Jim,
hold on. I don't even. Here's the problem. I don't know what we're grading on. We're grading on whatever fits it for Dave. Sometimes he grades on if the woman on stage sang a wonderful song, but it was opera and it was a fucking crowd of metalheads, or if they just sang long and loud, that's all it takes. Or if you can't say that, okay, the mixed tag team match was what drew the house, the people were more into it than anything else, and you got Punk and Rollins who held up their part, and you got their wives having a cat fight. I didn't need to see any goddamn technical brilliance. That's 3.5 stars, but the girls that have a match that I know everybody praised, but it was brought about by another girl getting pregnant, and it had a build of like, yeah, we're going to fight for the title now because there's no champion. And I don't know where everybody's head's at anymore.
And finally, Jim, Cody Rhodes defeated Drew McIntyre. 16 minutes, 52 seconds, 3 3/4 stars.
I would have dropped that a little bit. Of course, I'm on a realistic 4-star schedule like Leonard Maltin intended. But Cody and Drew had a good professional match that wasn't a barn burner and didn't botch anything or hurt anybody. So that's about 3 stars. But apparently, he liked that because they were better than AJ and Becky when they were pulling each other's hair. I don't know what he's fucking looking at.
I will say, obviously they're doing these shows with very few matches as opposed to AEW, which has tons of matches, but the match times here to me tell a story because the Punk match, I thought it went too long and I didn't even realize how long
that
it went.
was a little bit long, I will admit.
But 29 minutes, 15 seconds, that's a long match for that match.
I was full. There was a little steak left over on the plate. I had to get a doggy bag.
Well, Jim, those were the star ratings. I don't know if you saw it, but I'll bring it up here. What are your thoughts on the fact that ESPN graded the WrestlePalooza event as well, and they gave it a C, which became a story. It's the first WWE event on their new app, and it's a C.
I get some poor woman, Andrea Hale, wrote the review of the match or the show, and it was all over the internet that they gave it a C.
It's a man, for the record. I think it's Andreas Hale. It's a man. It has this little picture here.
I didn't know there was a drava over the A at the end. I thought it was Andrea. I apologize to Andrea and Andre and whoever else was involved. These French fucking people, you never know what's going on with the French. But anyway, the point is, I saw this and people are going out of their minds. But didn't ESPN say that they were still going to cover news? See, this is the problem when they're in bed with multiple people. Sometimes people get their feelings hurt. Back to business. Are they going to show the product and make money on it and talk about it like it's the greatest thing ever to make more money on it? Or are they going to be the news for sports channel and report on the news, Vincenzo? This is the battle they are having. And it was kind of a C show on their scale. It wasn't WrestleMania, but it wasn't, what's the last really rotten show they had? So, but poor Andrea, whoever he or she may be,
Andreas,
got fucking blistered on the internet from all the fans about it. Like, how dare you do this?
Well, here's the final write-up here at the very end. Final grade C. The excellent Vicaire versus Sky match saved this show from being truly average. It was a phenomenal display inside the
Well, wait a minute. A C is truly average. C is the definition of average. That's why they spell average with a C.
Everything else was either underwhelming, the short Rhodes and McIntyre match, or a setup for a future match, like Lesnar dominating Cena. For a card that promised to have epic moments, it fell a little short of expectations. Is that unfair?
No, I don't think that's the most inflammatory thing anybody's ever said. And now they're saying, though, that they're putting out the word that no, Cena's not going to wrestle Brock again, and that's to build Brock for the future. And that was, the call that was made or whatever. In that case, that would probably take it from a C to a D, wouldn't it? Because what the fuck?
That is puzzling, isn't it?
It's very puzzling. Does he got a few feel-good moments left with Cena before he can't feel you up and make you feel good anymore, and you use it to fucking let Brock lay him out when Brock's got, 5 more matches in his career at the pace he wrestles, if he wants to wrestle till he's 56?
Well, I guess the other question is, if someone writing for ESPN's website, where they dropped AEW coverage, it's all WWE coverage now. It's all about WWE. And the person writing the report gives it a C and says it fell short of expectations. Do you think there's anyone else at ESPN feeling the same way? And have they quickly gotten annoyed yet with the process of dealing with WWE and having Stephanie McMahon plug VPN services right before they go to the brand new app, and then the reporters giving it a C on the website?
Well, but here's another thing. They're just now getting a taste of what can happen when they rile the fucking fans up the other way. Much less the company doing things or whatever, but when they rile the fans up, and now they've got these crazy wrestling fans harassing them on social media all the time. Baseball fans do not go to the extent against networks and or promotions that the wrestling fans do they, Brian? You're the baseball guy.
I mean, baseball fans, will vent and rant about a lot of things, bad owners, bad commissioner.
Is the flavor of it anywhere near the wrestling fans who are like, they should be killed and hung and thrown and off the turrets of the castle?
It depends which town. St. Louis, they're very polite. New York and Philadelphia, you may have an issue. depending on the player.
I see. Well, that's the Sam Muchnick influence over there in St. Louis.
They're a very kind and passionate fan base who sit there and, don't boo. That's the best way I can put it. New York, they'll boo popular players if they mess up or don't hustle or don't do what's expected of them. Like, that's happened. Some of the best players who New York fans love have been booed out of the building. It's kind of a rite of passage.
So they're just fickle fucks, is what you're saying. Hey, there's Fred Ficklefuck and his wife Frances. You remember Frances Ficklefuck?
Well, Jim,
she had all the little kids, little Fred, Frank, and their daughter Fern.
Well, Jim, let's stay on the topic of the fickle. Let's get to the Observer star ratings for AEW All Out 2025 Toronto. Here are the matches we did not see.
Well, now, and do you think this is why they have so many matches? Because they think, okay, our cumulative stars will just blow away all of the WWE's totals?
I think Tony Khan, as an Observer reader, is trying to find ways to fill up as many pages as he can. And he knows if he does a 20-match card, it ends up being 3 pages in the Observer. But here are the matches. Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs defeated J.D. Drake and Anthony Henry. 5 minutes, 19 seconds, 2-star match. Daniel Garcia.
The same thing as John Cena and Brock Lesnar in the main event of a highly viewed premium live event.
Daniel Garcia defeated Katsuyori Shibata, 15 minutes, 3.5-star match.
Can you imagine 15 minutes of Shapoopy?
Versus Garcia. I think Garcia is the bigger problem there than Shibata.
I don't know. At least you can kind of laugh at the funny motions that Garcia makes.
With Shibata, because of the brain removal, you're always waiting for something crazy to happen, just like he starts walking backwards or something. You're just something off,
the fucking wire fell off, and oh shit, we got to connect that son of a bitch back up.
Jim Hologram.
Be farting out his mouth and shoving cake up his ass.
Jim Hologram, who apparently is injured, so is
what is this? What the fuck happened?
I don't know, but his undefeated streak is intact. He's injured.
But no, they shot an egg. They issued a challenge on last week's Dynamite for this coming week's Dynamite, and it's only possible for him to have had one match in between that time, and he got hurt in that match and has already been replaced.
I believe Commander took his place in the match with Kyle Fletcher, which I heard was a really good match.
But no, wait, the match had to be what he got hurt in, because they've changed the match on TV next week to what's his goddamn Kyle and Pockets.
Oh,
so when did he came out? Was he already hurt when they did the goddamn deal where I challenge you for next week? What?
Do you think someone finally told him in Spanish, Tony will pay you, stay home? Be a hologram.
Literally, they only work once or twice a week at most, and it was in the show from Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to have this match on TV, and then they've already changed the match days beforehand because he's already hurt. How did he get fucking hurt that quick? Was he hit by a cab?
They can't keep any. No, well, that happened to Darby, remember? Was it a cab or a truck? Something hit his face in New York City. It was a bus, that's right.
A bus hit his face.
Well, once again, Hologram out. AEW can't keep any of their baby faces healthy at all. Hologram, Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly defeated the frat house of Griff Garrison, Preston Vance, and Cole Carter. 3 minutes.
Hey, with Roddy involved, it might have been a real frat house. Remember, he's the one that fucking, for a free case of beer and some fun, got choked out on a reality show by a midget. They were in a frat house.
I don't know anything about this, no.
Weeks after Sinclair Broadcasting.
I don't know anything about this.
Weeks after Sinclair Broadcasting bought Ring of Honor, and we were planning to debut on television, and Roddy was featured in the main event mix as one of the top individual single young new stars, hard-hitting combatants in the Ring of Honor promotion is going to be debuting on television. I'm going somewhere. Stacy's driving. I'm trying to do paperwork, and I get a call from Delirious, who tells me that I call Roddy. He is about to be on goddamn True TV on some kind of reality television show involving the midget wrestlers, and it was shot 2 years beforehand, and he did it in Florida where he lived, and he did it as a lark where he ends up being one of the people in his college party that gets choked out by a fucking midget. And I say, you mean, and they're going to air it in like a few weeks. I say, you mean to tell me that I'm going to have to explain to the executives at Sinclair Broadcasting that why the new television show they're about to debut features a fucking professional athlete supposedly in competition for the world championship of said promotion that is going to be on another channel getting choked out by a midget, and he got paid a case of beer for it. I hung up on him. He said, but it was 2 years ago and we were just having fun. I said, you were still a wrestler. Why would you do that on tape when you're a professional wrestler? And you just, for beer. So fortunately, apparently either nobody watched it or unfortunately nobody knew who the fuck he was because we didn't hear much about it.
Once again, they defeated the Frat House. 3 minutes, 18 seconds, 1.5 stars.
I can't make a comment either way.
Willow Nightingale and Mina Shirakawa and Queen Aminata and Harley Cameron defeated Julia Hart, Sky Blue, Megan Bain, and Penelope Ford in a tailgate brawl tornado match. 11:34 tailgate. 2-star match.
Giggity. What the fuck? 2 stars from Dave for AEW? This must have been embarrassing.
Well, we go to the main show now, Jim. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage defeated FTR 18 minutes, 3 seconds, 4.5 stars.
Okay, it was a good tag team match, especially when the people were into Edge and Christian. As we mentioned, they really had them at a point where they could have gone home and they went about another minute and a half too long. But this is, no, that's not a 4.5 star level tag team match. I'm sorry. And FTR and Gin and Juice was it lasted almost an hour, was the greatest tag team match of modern times. And did he give it 5 or just under 5?
I think it went over 5, maybe.
Did he go? Well, all right. I guess he broke the scale for that one, but there's a lot of room in there for flexibility. I would think any of the matches FTR had with the Briscoes or with Gable and Jordan were better, except in the terms of with Gable and Jordan, they didn't have the Edge and Christian in Toronto hometown edge. The Briscoes, I believe, were at home in Philly for at least one of those. But nevertheless, here we go.
Jim Eddie Kingston returned and defeated Big Bill 7 minutes, 19 seconds.
Now, if he's already given 2 stars especially to John Cena and Brock Lesnar, then a glorified TV match with a finish that was a whiff that the people groaned over has to be under 2 stars, does it not?
1 3/4 stars.
Glory, hallelujah. Now, wait a minute. Now I'm worried. I'm thinking about the same fucking direction as Meltzer. I may need a doctor.
That may be the lowest star rating we've ever seen for an AEW match. I'm not sure. Oh, no, well, 1.5 stars, I guess, is lower than 1 3/4, so.
In most mathematical tables.
Jim Mark Briscoe defeated MJF in a tables and thumbtacks match, 19 minutes, 20 seconds, 4 3/4 stars.
Okay.
Ricochet.
Did he do the old, well, it's not for everybody? And I don't particularly like it, but here I'm going to come all over it. Did he approach it that way? Like,
No, I think the match he comes all over is a different match on the show. No, he wrote, this was super for what it was.
in other words, if they'd have just brought the donkey from Tijuana in there, and here came Vanessa Del Rio, 72 years old and still looking as good as ever, and got down on all fours, and they gave us the whole show, it would be good for what it was. Not my cup of tea, but 5 fucking stars, especially for the burro.
All right, let's get away from show world here, Jim. Ricochet and Bishop Khan. And
why do you got us immediately, as soon as we're talking about jackasses, you bring up Ricochet?
And Toa Leona defeated Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP, 13 minutes, 41 seconds, 3.5 stars.
Nothing unreasonable there. Not anything to grump about. I know he's probably trying to insult him with that, but that's actually what, a realistic people might give something that was realistically okay.
This next one is interesting. Mercedes Moné defeated Riho, 15 minutes, 55 seconds.
Oh, here we go.
4-star match. It says here at a few points, the crowd was not with it down the stretch. And then at the end, it says, the crowd cost this match a good 0.5 star.
So it's their fault. Oh, well, that's how he. So that's why how he figures that Mercedes' personal assistant and personal writer and personal chauffeur and personal friend that gets lost in the woods with her won't all get mad at him. The team, the team.
That's right. Remember the new, is it Monet Mag or Mercedes Mag? I guess it can't be Mercedes Mag.
It's Monet Mag. No, Mercedes, BMW, Mercedes, all those people got upset about that. She tried that first.
We may have to revisit that in the future. This next one's interesting. Oh, boy.
I have pictures of her as a hood ornament. They didn't release them to the public. Because...
All right, let's get back in line here. Back in proper order. Kazuchika Okada won a 3-way over Konosuke Takeshita and Mascara Dorada.
Okay, now wait a minute.
20 minutes, 56 seconds.
Just hold on a second. Again, you have Okada is just see-through at this point with the shortcuts he's taking and the lackadaisical attitude, and he can't move to begin with. And we know everybody likes our boy Take, Uncle Dave especially. And then the bump on the log, the third one of the group, the little masked fellow that was just added into this out of nowhere. How can he justify this?
He could justify it with 5.25 stars. This was one of the best 3-ways of all time. Not just athletically, but story-wise. Well, Jim, we'll go to the next match before you throw up in your mouth a little more. Jon Moxley defeated Darby Allin in a coffin match, 19 minutes, 20 seconds, 4.5 stars.
Oh, I bet Darby got his feelings hurt by that one. But everything is, it just has to be all, no matter what they do or what goes on, it has to be 4.5 and then 5 and then 4. And then because he has to have this self-fulfilling prophecy of every AEW pay-per-view is loaded with great matches. And then he's the one calling them great.
Chris Statlander won the AEW Women's title over Toni Storm, Tekla, and Jamie Hayter, 11 minutes, 58 seconds, 3.75 stars.
Basically, twice as good as Cena and Lesnar.
Brody King and Bandito defeated the Young Bucks, Hechicero, and Josh Alexander, and Jet Speed in a ladder match, 24 minutes, 33 seconds, 4 3/4 stars.
Well, like, you had to put the Cucamonga contingent in there in the middle between the 4.5 and the 5 so that they didn't get their feelings hurt. And obviously, neither you nor I, Brian, paid any attention to this whatsoever because it's goddamn ridiculous that the children get to play like this. So we can't say we watched it and it wasn't, but we didn't watch it and we doubt it.
And finally, Adam Page defeated Kyle Fletcher 38 minutes, 9 seconds.
And we watched this one.
5 1/4 stars.
Oh, Christ almighty. Better than anything that Flair and Steamboat and Angle and etc. and that whole company ever accomplished. The Hangman and his juvenile delinquent fucking doppelganger.
And for the record, Jim, the match you reviewed, Mystico defeating MJF in CMLL's anniversary show for the world light heavyweight title, 17 minutes 38 seconds. Dave gave that 5.5 stars.
He can sit there and see two completely different things and rate them exactly the same way.
That's what it appears to be. Those are the all-out star ratings. Jim, I was going to go over the PWI 500, but we'll save that for another time just so
there's 500 of them.
Let's get to some other stuff first. A few questions here from the Cult of Cornette.
Yes.
This one was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, Jim, by Josh Patton. What is the origin of the fisherman's suplex, and why is it called that?
Well, I can answer the second part first. If you just look when you hook the guy's head and you're bending over and you're hooking his leg, you're turning him in the position, you're contorting his body to where he looks like a fish hook. So that's where that came from. It's as simple as that. That's not even up for debate. That's an easy one. The problem is who's the first person to do it, because Kurt Hennig popularized it.
Right, the perfect plex.
But I don't know, truthfully and honestly. Would that be some kind of thing he learned from like the likes of Billy Robinson in the AWA, one of the old-fashioned little things that you didn't see anymore at that time, or did he invent it straight out? I do not know.
It seems like one of those things that would have been around, but you can't visualize anyone doing it. It's too bad there's not like a fisherman gimmick, because then it would at least tie into that. I'm trying to think of, because I watched Billy, and he would have been around Billy Robinson a lot more than I was in the AWA. He was there for so long, but I watched Robinson and Bill Dundee have matches for the CWA title. And I've been recently going through negatives and seeing some of the pictures, and I'm trying to visualize it seems like I can see a Billy Robinson or a Tony Charles or someone of that nature doing something like that, but I can't call it. And I'm trying to and don't remember anybody else before Hennig got it over doing it. Again, we might find, was it a Brad Ringen's fucking amateur type of thing that in Vern's camp that he might have stolen? I'm blurting out loud thinking. I just quickly Googled it to see what would come up. According to AI, this is AI on Google's response.
Oh boy.
It was invented by Kuniaki Kobayashi.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize, if that's true. Huh. And I'm a big
there is a big
fan.
fishing industry in Japan. A lot of them are fishermen. So that makes some sense that Hennig would have seen that at some point and appropriated it. And Kobayashi was, but again, he was tremendous, and those matches are very underlooked with Tiger Mask and he. because of Dynamite was, even more impressive and blah, blah, blah. But Tiger Mask and Kobayashi both were guys that they sent to England and Mexico. I know Tiger Mask went to both. Maybe Kobayashi just went to one or the other. But from those worlds, he may have picked that up and translated it from something.
The Dynamite Kid matches are the big matches because of what they mean, and they're great, not to take anything away from them. Some of them are just spectacles worth watching because of the reaction, like the MSG match. But the Kobayashi matches, I think, are the better actual matches.
They actually are, and it was more like at the time this was still important and cool. They were like a live action martial arts movie that you could buy into, not where the guy was doing fucking 4 flips off the trampoline off camera, but some Bruce Lee, really good working shit.
It was the hair. See, him having that big hair helmet, I think really helped the look.
And also he could fling his head and sell, and there was some movement, whereas Dynamite being bald-headed was just, yeah.
Jim, another question here from the Cult of Cornette Facebook group was sent in by Kevin Danserow. Is the double turn the most difficult angle to pull off in wrestling?
Well, no, the most difficult angle to pull off in wrestling would have been getting George Goulas over as a top babyface. I mean, I don't have a list of every single angle here and with attributed a degree of difficulty to each, but yes, a double turn is a difficult thing to pull off, and you have to not only have the situation needs to be right, the way that everybody has got to that point, their interaction with each other, the build, the way that the fans are seeing them at the time, and in the way they execute it. And they not only have to do the finish right, but they have to do the match, which you can't tell, you can't teach, well, now you can plan out every move in advance, but in those periods of time, the guys would have the match in the ring and lead the people in the manner in which they wanted them to be thinking at the end, so that they were accepting to the finish, but not tip the finish off ahead of time, not be so broad, the pie in the face type of thing, ham-fisted with it, where you're like 10 minutes ahead of time. I bet he's going to fucking turn. But just leading them in that direction subtly, that type of thing, it was very difficult to do. And Hart and Austin did it. And you can watch through the whole thing and just kind of see a verbal example or a visual example of what I just said verbally. The Midnight and the Road Warriors did it in New Orleans for the World Tag Team title in WCW, which it was done well, but it didn't take fully because the people in the building booed the Road Warriors for doing it, but the people overall weren't ready to boo the Road Warriors. And that was to get them ready for Dusty to be the big baby face, but then they weren't ready for that either. They still wanted to cheer the Road Warriors. So they are very difficult to do unless everybody's on the same page and the conditions are right.
Jim, our next question sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group was sent by Chris Hunt. Can Jim recall
is he Mike's brother?
Can Jim recall any creative ideas he may have had that got shot down?
Good Lord. Recall any? We don't have time left in the program. I'll tell you one of the first ones I had creative ideas could be anything from, oh, golly, I'll get the Galaxians ray guns for the publicity photo. I mean, or shit, props we used to bring out on TV. We'd do that on our own. You had some freedom with that. But actually taking part in an official creative meeting, one of the first, at least good ideas I thought I had everybody poo-pooed in Dallas. And have I told you, Brian, because we've talked about Dallas umpteen times, I mentioned that they asked me sometime in April leading into the May Texas Stadium show. We had been there since Christmas, right? And Fritz was not the owner. He was not the booker. Fritz was the owner. Ken Mantell was the booker. But going to the booking meetings were also David Manning, the head referee, Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams as the heel champions of Gary Hart. They also included them often. Kevin Von Erich was usually in the meetings, at least the 4 or 5 I went to. And Bronco Lubitsch. So it was like a fucking group, right? And they asked me, well, we see you're pretty creative with the finishes with the, Midnight Fantastics. Would you like to come to the booking meeting? Well, geez, of course. I didn't know what I was getting into there either. And Ken Mantell didn't have control of anything. He was just sitting there with a pencil behind his ear, scratching his head. And then I think he kind of collected ideas and tried to formulate it some way or another. But they would all just throw out stuff, but it was basically always about the Von Erich boys and what their issue was going to be. Because imagine that, at least one of them and their opponents were in the goddamn meeting. But we were coming up on Texas Stadium as relates to the idea. And Brian, you may remember that year, 1985. They had one of the main events was for the NWA title with Flair and I think it was Kevin. Flair versus Kevin, NWA title match. And because they were going to have the 2-ring, 10-man fucking tag team match that was going to be where everybody came back and worked twice, they were going to have 2 rings there. So they made it legal that the world title match could take place in both rings also. So that's the stipulation. Ric Flair, Kevin Von Erich, NWA world title match can take place in both rings. Didn't say anything about no time limit, no disqualification, no count out, whatever, right? And also you'll remember our match with the Fantastics for the American Tag Team title. That was that night, and I'm in the corner sitting next to Little John, and they had the match in both rings also, trying to jazz it up a little bit because it was so dreary with John. Anyway, what are they going to do for a finish with Flair and Kevin? And they said, how about a count out? Because this is 1985, and the Kerry was the year before, and he won. But on the Reunion Arena, Texas Stadium, Cotton Bowl, they couldn't have one of the boys just do a controversial job to the world champion. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, geez, they always do. They've been doing countouts here since Fritz was wrestling a champion, right? And they mentioned they've at an appropriate time, maybe they take a bump over the top rope and the one guy's grabbing the other guy and pulling him down and trying to get in. How many times have you seen that, Brian, as a wrestling fan? They pull each other down over and over until they get counted out.
Seen it a bunch of times, of course.
Yes, and everybody knows what's going to happen as soon as they start. My idea was this. I said, let me ask you a question. What are the rules of a world title match taking place in 2 rings? There are no set rules for that specific stipulation because it's never happened before. Therefore, David Manning, you always usually referee the world title matches. What about if you just so happen to referee the match before that and you get bumped or you turn your ankle or whatever? Don't even have to do it in the finish. Just turn your ankle getting out of the ring. And instead, here comes the rookie referee, Ralph Pulley, to referee the match with Flair and Kevin. And they're having the match in 2 rings. And Flair gets heat on Kevin. And he beats the shit out of him. He waltzes him across Texas. makes him sell like he's going to the electric chair. And he's chopping him and he's figure four him and he's whatever the fuck he's doing to him. And finally, Kevin starts his comeback. And the people are coming up and Kevin's kicking the shit out of Flair. And he shoots Flair off and upside down into the buckle and over the top rope, and he falls into the apron in between the two rings. And to get away from Kevin, he gets into the other ring. So Kevin follows him and he grabs him there. Boom, boom, boom. And he shoots him off and Flair goes upside down again and falls into the middle of the goddamn two rings. And this time Kevin comes in the middle and gets him. And he grabs hold of Flair in his left hand by Flair's blonde hair, and he shows the people the claw hand, and he slaps the claw on Ric Flair, and who is fighting to keep upright and slowly going down onto the aprons of the rings where they meet in between the rings outside the ropes. And meanwhile, the rookie referee, placed in a position of pressure, refereeing his first world title match, is counting these fucking guys out because they ain't in ring one and they ain't in ring two. They're in the middle. And right as fucking Kevin gets the goddamn claw hold on Flair and he's fought him all the way down and he presses him down to the canvas and Flair is out flat on his back on the aprons of the ring in the middle. Pulley gets to it was 20 in world class, gets to the 20 count and rings the bell. Double count out. What do you think?
That's pretty good.
Well, they said no. And if you go back and watch fucking tape, they take a bump out of the ring and each one pulls the other one off the apron until they're counted out.
That's pretty good.
So
that
was disappointing to me.
Did they tell you right to your face, like, no, we can't do that? I mean, how did they deal with you?
Well, no, they just, and then they started talking about doing the other thing the way they wanted to do it. All right. But I'm only 23. What do I know? It's my first booking meeting.
So did you have any say in the Little John stuff?
Somewhat. They wanted, I was his kind of on-site producer, whispering at him what reactions to have or to stand up or sit down or whatever. But they wanted him there beside me, and it was just to neutralize me from interfering, getting in the ring. They could sell to the fans, well, you won't be able to fuck the Fantastics now because this giant's next to him. But I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of interplay because he was an idiot as well as green and had never been in the business before. But they wanted him to have some part to play in the Fantastics getting the win. And because they had gimmicked it up, it was all four in the rings, tornado match in 2 rings. It was already confusing to people. And we were relying on this guy for anything in the way of timing in the finish. So as you go back and watch it, I think Bobby Fulton was paired off with Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey and Tommy Rogers. May have been the other way around. But nevertheless, it's supposed to be a near simultaneous double pin with one of the Midnight up and one of the Fantastics up. But the legal Fantastic is the guy that gets the pin. All Little John has to do is slap Bobby Eaton on the fucking leg to turn him around so he can be schoolboyed, I believe. And I'm sitting there going, slap his leg, slap his leg, slap his fucking leg. With my goddamn Paul Winchell ventriloquist.
Walter Winchell, that's right.
Well, yeah, maybe you could have heard Walter Winchell, Paul Winchell, without doing the ventriloquist voice, without moving his lips. Slap his fucking leg. And you see Bobby's even looking down like, where's the feet? And so in effect, the double pin ended up with the Midnight getting the pin first because the other guys did their shit correctly. And so we really won the fucking match. The people are like, rrr. And then the one spot they wanted me to do with Little John was to take my racket and hit him over the back with it and it break. Well, I couldn't use a metal one because you can't break those. It had to be a wooden one. But the wooden ones are graphite. And goddamn, you would have to seriously hit a hard stationary object pretty fucking strongly to break one of those rackets in half like they wanted it. So we tried to gimmick it. And we sawed it part of the way through, but he was such a big fucking schlub, and his bench press was like 180. He was 7'6" and fucking 400 pounds or whatever. And so they sawed it too far, and I tried to take care of it through the whole match. No, I know what it was. I'm sorry, I told a lie. They wanted me to hit him over the back with it and him not sell it, and then him grab it away from me and snap it in half. But I said, if we gimmick it where he can snap it, then I can't hit him with it. And they say, oh, yeah, you just work it. Well, I fucking hit him real light, and the goddamn head fell off. Just fell off, boom. And I said that was a metaphor for the whole match. To lose the titles to the Fantastics, we actually won the fucking match. And then the only time that I've ever acquiesced to anybody actually breaking the racket, and it was a fart in church like that. So then we gave our notice when we got the check. But yeah, that whole thing was a goddamn mess.
Well, that was a great question.
But I still like that finish.
I remember that show. You were also out there with Rip Oliver for the 2-ring, was it 10-man tag?
Yes. Yes, I was.
But we'll revisit this question. You could have time to think about ideas that were shot down by Dusty or Watts or Dundee or Jerry Jarrett.
Well, and remember Jim Herd went back on the deal to make the Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane part of the Four Horsemen with Flair and Arn when we only had 2 horsemen. And we started that in motion, and then he canceled that. And I was highly ticked off about that because I didn't want to do it to begin with. And came because I was then going to become a full-time announcer instead of manager. But since the boys would be taken care of and the horsemen would be replenished and Herd would get off my back, I agreed to it after I had the idea, and Flair said, okay. And then Herd canceled that. I said, well, fuck you then. I quit too. Flair had quit the booking committee like the week before. I went on vacation, came back, found out that they had ixnayed that idea. I said, well, tell him I've quit also so he can have his fucking booking meetings in private now.
All right, Jim, our next question sent via email to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com is sent by FG. The title of the email is Right Place, Right Time. I have a question about Tully's...
Dr. John!
I have a question about Tully's Perfect 10. The story is, when Crockett and Tully went to Texas, they were in search of Sunshine, who at the time was in rehab, and they went with Nicola Roberts. How would the whole angle with Dusty, Magnum, and later against you and the Horsemen played out differently if Sunshine was hired instead? Reminds me of how Ray Traylor, who became Big Bubba, was just a perfect person in the right place for the role at the time.
Okay, where does the story come from? Have you heard this story before, Brian?
I had never heard that. Well, certainly not that Jim Crockett and Tully Blanchard went to Texas looking for sunshine. I never heard that.
Well, yeah, this is not like Watts took Jim Ross and a cameraman to fucking search for Stagger Lee.
No,
no. Okay, for one thing, no, Tully didn't ever say, hey, Jimmy, let's go to Texas and try to find sunshine. At the period of when Baby Doll started with Tully for Crockett, it was what, 1985 early on, right? Or late 84?
If it wasn't late 84, I think it would have been early 85, I think. Because Starrcade 85 is obviously one of the moments I always think about with her or with Tully.
Well, yeah, and they'd already established that. So, because I know she was there by the time we came in summer of 85. Point I'm making. It wouldn't have been hard to find Sunshine. She was working in goddamn Dallas against me in fucking April and May and June and July of 1985. She wasn't in rehab. It may have been a blessing at the time, but she wasn't there. And the way that they found Nicola was that she was Nick Roberts's daughter. Nick Roberts was the promoter in Lubbock, and I think he had taken over Amarillo by that point, the West Texas towns, for the Texas office. But Tully had seen her, before Tully being from San Antonio, they had, she was not a secret that she existed, that suddenly she was standing by. Oh my God, look at her. They knew her. She was part of the wrestling family. And I can't remember whether it was Tully or whether it might have been Flair going out there for title defenses and just seeing Nicola backstage, visiting her dad's business. And obviously she was interested in the wrestling business, but the only story I ever heard centered on she was a strikingly tall, healthy looking young lady that either Flair or somebody had seen when they were out there and suggested that, and Dusty would have been no stranger to who Nick Roberts was. And the perfect 10 thing was kind of the rib. They found a girl bigger than Tully. And she was dressed up at first in the punk rock, kind of shit, like as a Mad Maxine type of she's his bodyguard, and she's bigger than he is.
And that's how she was dressed when she was in Dallas as Andrea the Lady Giant.
That's right. And she had worked for what, 2 or 3 months, maybe.
Yeah, she was aligned
already on the shows.
She was aligned with Gino and Jake Roberts and that whole crew.
As a matter of fact, okay, and Flair went down and defended the title and came back and said, "Oh, you got to see the Nick Roberts' daughter is dressed up and she's 6'1" or whatever." That's what it was. But yeah, Andrea the Lady Giant. That's thankfully she slipped that one early, because that would have been kind of. But yeah, Baby Doll, and the promos that Tully did, the Perfect 10 is coming, making you think you're going to see some supermodel out of a magazine, and here's Baby Doll. And that was part of the fucking heat.
Do you remember when the movie 10 came out with Bo Derek and how that kind of did?
I do, brother.
Did that popularize the phrase with you? The idea of she's a 10?
Well, it didn't popularize it with me. I've never went around, using it frivolously. But it made everybody in America aware of it. Everybody knew that's what what was 10 came out, 78? I bet you.
78
I bet
or 79.
You if you look it up.
Hold on, let's see.
I got the Playboy too, by the way.
79.
All right, prick. But yeah, so this is 1984. It's still part of normal daily terminology. So everybody knew what the fuck the deal was.
Is there any joke about the idea that, Baby Doll next to Tully is kind of like Dudley Moore next to Bo Derek?
Well, I think he looked more like Dudley Moore than she did Bo Derek. But, Brian, the thing is, I never fucked a 10, but one night I fucked 5 2s.
Did anyone ever hit you harder in your career than that one shot that's on camera where you're backing up and she punches you as hard as she can right in the back of the head?
Yes. You want to know who?
Yeah.
Baby Doll in St. Louis, when she hit me in the front of my fucking head. She dislocated my jaw with a slap she was supposed to miss. I missed an elbow drop on Magnum or whatever, and he rolls over and tags Baby Doll, and I come up. And I'm supposed to turn around and see her and go, ah, like that, and fall backwards on my ass and tag out as she swings a slap at me. Like, oh, missed it by that much. And then they'd milk it till the finish when she really got a hold of me. When I went, ah, She slapped me and dislocated my fucking jaw while my mouth was open. And I couldn't chew without pain for 3 or 4 days. And for years, the left, because she's right-handed, right? So my left side of my jaw here, right outside your ear, would click when I opened it a certain way or width or whatever. So yes, the only time anybody ever hit me in harder than she did in the back of the head was when she hit me in the front of the head.
I know it's not like there's any heat right now, but this is years after the fact. But at the time, in the moment, is there anyone, was that the first person you worked with who you actually didn't get along with professionally? Like there were problems in the back, you guys, you know, she literally shoot punching you whenever she could on camera.
Well, no, we laughed about it at the time because I knew she didn't know how to work. I worked with her for big time wrestling in Spartanburg. Like what, in 2017, we had a fucking reprise of our goddamn feud and had a single match for 10 minutes.
So you don't think it was revenge for you going off on her when they tried to pull the rib on you being arrested?
Well, no, a lot of this shit was before that.
Okay.
See, and that's the thing also is if she couldn't work any better in Spartanburg in 2017 than she could in 1986, but I couldn't, you know, I would joke about it, but I couldn't get mad about it because she didn't know how to work. But that I did get a little grumpy the one night at the Orange Bowl in Miami. Again, the finish, I think it was her and the Rock and Roll Express maybe, but at the finish, they tagged me in. And one of two things was going to happen. I was either going to run from the male baby faces and turn into her knockout punch, or she was going to chase me down, tackle me, and fucking give me the knockout punch. She chased me around the ring. When she tackled me, she tackled me. She was on top of me. We were going down face first with me on the bottom. And so I put my hands out to cushion my fall. And she was so tight on back of me that when my hands landed, her face went into my elbow and it cracked her teeth, chipped her front teeth. And she actually got mad and went home to go to the dentist because I chipped her teeth. I'm like, goddamn, you tackled me like Dick fucking Butkus and you're on me so fucking tight that when I try to protect my face from being smashed in, you chipped your teeth on my elbow. But yeah, she consistently potatoed me more than anybody else that I ever worked with in my career.
And what about Sunshine? Just to finish the comparison, when you worked with her, how many times did she get her hands on you and what was that like?
Oh, no. What did she?
Did she get her hands on you?
Well, no, here's the thing. In the angle leading up to this was one idea that I had that they didn't shoot down. The thing to lead to Tarrant County Convention Center, the Fort Worth Star Wars event. We did the interviews, Sunshine and I, where our men had ill dealings in the ring, but then I got personal with her and we would joust verbally back and forth. And then I challenged her to a battle of the sexes where I would prove that women ought to be in the kitchen rattling the pots and pans. I'm doing the Andy Kaufman thing. It's fucking June 1985, right? They had seen it, but they hadn't seen it on local Dallas wrestling. You got to be rattling the pots and pans around. And I hit her with the lines. You know, Sunshine's not her real name. Her real name's Virginia. They used to call her Virgin for short, but not for long. She's been on more street corners than the Dallas Times Herald. I got bleeped one time, but I said, Sunshine, you're nothing but I wish I could say the word slut on TV. And I made sure the lip readers got it. And we're at Saturday night in fucking Dallas, right? I'm auditioning for Saturday Night Live. So finally, she does the promo. And I told her, I said, just go out and talk about how hot you've gotten over the things I've said. Cornette really makes me hot. And so she does the promo, you know, to Mark Lawrence there, like he stepped off a wedding cake. He's dressed in the deal. That Cornette just makes me hot. Everything he says, everything he does, he just makes me hot. And I come out in my workout outfit, the sweatsuit, and the towel around my neck, and I got a cup of water that I'm sipping because I've been doing jumping jacks and shit, and I do the whole promo. Richard Simmons is a family friend. I've been training, working out. I did push-ups. I did sit-ups. I did chin-ups. I threw up once. I'm okay now. Ready to go for you, sunshine. I'm going to prove it takes a good man to beat you, but it don't take him long. But I heard you say that I'd made you hot. And I wanted to come out here and make amends for that because I didn't realize you were getting so hot at me. So I would just like to take this opportunity to say I'm very sorry and I would like to cool you off. And I threw the fucking big jug of water in her face. And she's drenched in her goddamn finery. And she had what's that? A suede skirt on, which it really fucked up. I think I'd made a comment about how she was dressed also. But I threw the water. I embarrass her. She's screaming mad. She wants to get a hold of me. And then they say, well, we can't advertise a man versus a woman in the state of Texas because of the what they were calling the commission at that time, Department of Labor and Standards, I believe. So it's going to be an exhibition. And I got tricked into, well, I'm going to be blindfolded. But instead of having a match, all Sunshine has to do is prove that if I'm blindfolded, she's got to knock me off my feet. And if she doesn't, then I'm going to take that blindfold off and I'm going to give her what she's got coming. And once I'm blindfolded, Bronco Lubitsch is distracted by Sunshine. Kabuki, her guy, comes in, gives me the super kick, knocks me the fuck out of me, dives out of the ring. I fucking groggily pull the hood off as the people are screaming and yelling, yay! And there's Sunshine standing over me. I think she did it. The referee raises her hand. We built that for 6 weeks for a 30-second payoff. But it was one of the feature fucking matches. But that's, with Sunshine, the question was physical. I couldn't hit a woman on their TV or anywhere else, especially at that time. And she couldn't really do anything because she couldn't work either. So we built it up to where the people wanted to see it more than they wanted to just see her humiliate me, and they didn't care how it happened. The one time she did something to me, I took her down to the sportatorium one day before we went to a spot show or whatever and showed her how to arm drag me. And so when we were doing a confrontation in one of the promos, and she said, well, Kabuki has been teaching me a few things. I come out and interrupt. Oh, yeah, you're learning martial arts. Yeah, Bruce Lee, ha, ha, ha. And I pointed her. I said, I asked the fans, I said, do you people actually think that this puny little girl could even take me off my feet? And when I point at her, she grabs my left arm. She ducks down. She arm drags me. Over I go. And I pop up, oh shit, and the place blew. And then I get out of the ring because I'm scared. That's all they needed.
One last question.
Does that answer the question?
One last thing about this, now that we're talking about women being stiff with you or not being stiff with you.
I've been stiff with a few women, I'll have you know.
Misty Blue, when you worked with her, could she work? I mean, was she able to do anything?
No. I mean, no, well, Misty, they were very nice young ladies that I didn't have any problem with, but they were self-trained, indie trained. Misty's husband, that was her agent, that had her in not only the wrestling business, but also the starring roles in the world's absolute worst pornography that's ever been shot
on the
planet.
The other girls were too, right? Linda Dallas and
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole group, and it would put you off fucking. This porno was so bad. And he was in one of them. Good Lord, that really, I don't know how he talked to anybody into doing anything, but nevertheless, they were just self-trained and they weren't real good, but they weren't like trying to hurt you or anything. But when we did the angle on TV, on TBS, where Misty Blue wants me to show her how Bob Eaton flies off the top rope, and when I turn around, she's supposed to drop kick me. That was to set up the 8-man in Baltimore with me and Bobby and Stan and Murdoch against Dusty and Barry Windham and Misty Blue and who was Nikita Koloff. I turn around and she jumps and she drop kicked me. Literally, if she'd have potatoed me, I would have been sterile from that point on. She drop kicked me in the lower belly, upper crotch. And that was, I still went down, but it wasn't the most sparkling bump I ever took, because how do you sell a drop kick to the fucking crotch? But, you know, I had good matches with Sherry Martel.
Well, she
and a good one with Luna Vachon.
She knew how to work too.
But Misty Blue in the cage, again, it was kept till the end, and I can't even remember exactly how she beat me that night. But we did $103,000 in Baltimore in a snowstorm in 1987. So there you go.
All right, Jim, a couple more questions. And I know we said, I guess, the program, because of how long we've run, we will bring Guess the Program back next week.
Guess when we're going to do Guess the Program?
Next week here on the show. Jim, a couple more questions and we'll get out of here. This one was sent via email to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Noel in Ireland. What if, by some miracle, Shawn Michaels was actually a stand-up employee and a team player during the mid to late 90s? How would the wrestling landscape have changed? And would other wrestlers, like British Bulldog and Vader, have gotten a run with the world title? There is also the knock-on effect of no curtain call, Triple H winning King of the Ring 96, so no Austin 316 promo. So a lot of WWF history depends on Shawn Michaels being an immature asshole.
Well, you know, now that you look at it that way, maybe it's better he was a flaming uncircumcised prick. No, I mean, there is a cause and effect between, you know, the Austin 316 and that whole 9 yards that cannot be denied. And to be honest, you know, Vince had missed Austin to that point and wasn't really interested, and the ringmaster thing sucked and he was being himself, but who knows if he'd have gotten that opportunity or that kind of opportunity at that point if Triple H hadn't fucked up. But with Michaels, he was never going to be a transformative guy like a Bruno or a Hogan or an Austin or whatever. But he was the best worker in the business in the ring. And not just the best worker performer of moves in the business like a Chris Benoit type, but the best worker. He had the head for it, the way to have matches, the way to do things. He was so far ahead of most people that if he hadn't been on pills and the smell of his own farts, he could have. Vader definitely would have gotten a run because Vince was ready to do it. And Vader probably would have been effective in short term as a champion, and then Shawn would have been better off for winning it back from him. I don't know they would have made Davey champion just because Davey never went a long period of time where he didn't do something of his own accord or outside the ring to get in his own way. And I don't know that he ever would have been the WWF champion. But business would have been easier to conduct, probably a little bit better, certainly more consistent if Michaels had not been, you know, childish and been himself.
How different would the locker room atmosphere be if Shawn Michaels had not been who he was in the 90s?
That would have probably been the best part about it, is just everybody would have got along a lot more instead of having all the groups and the divisiveness and the assholery going on. But I don't know that Michaels would have drastically changed the business in, you know, many multiples or took it to another level like the guys that I mentioned. But, you know, he was the best at what he did, and it certainly could have been easier and probably could have been a little bit better.
All right, Jim, one final question here this week. This one was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Donnie Howard. Hypothetical, but what would have happened if Hogan had tried to hold up Vince for an ownership stake before WrestleMania or WrestleMania 2? I always wondered why such a prominently important star never tried.
Ooh, an ownership stake. I'm trying to. I would suggest that Vince was obviously never going to give up any ownership in the company because he had gone to such pains, as the new book that's out now, the new Solomon book's here. Brian Solomon wrote Irresistible Force on the life of Gorilla Monsoon. Vince went to great pains to not only buy his father out, but make sure that he bought all of the partners, had everything all to himself. He wasn't going to give any up 2 years after he had done that. What I'm trying to think is to what he might have told Hogan at the time to get him off of that if Hogan had tried it. And if Hogan had come to him and said, give me some ownership percentage, I mean, even Hogan, even WrestleMania, he would have had to have been somewhat realistic. He wouldn't just say, give me all of this and your goddamn family and let me live in your house. He would have known he had a chance at something maybe. So would he have said, give me 10%, give me 20%, give it whatever, change my deal, whatever it may be. I think if he had asked for ownership, Vince would have probably scared him off with the idea that this experiment was still unproven. If he was part owner, he might be liable for the losses as well as in line for the fucking share of the profits and or any potential lawsuits that may come from these promoters that were starting to fuck around. So maybe, Hulk, you might just want a large cash payment as your ransom for holding me up instead of a piece of the company, which could get sticky in legal matters, maybe something like that Hogan probably would have fell for and bought and been happy to just get a suitcase full of fucking money. What do you think, Brian?
There are very few wrestlers who could have pulled off anything like that. Bruno Sammartino, and in certain towns, he had a better cut than any other wrestler, but he didn't actually own a piece of the territory.
He had a set percentage that he got himself, which no other wrestler had, but he didn't have ownership. But he, at the same time, I don't think he wanted ownership. I think he wanted, because he turned down, because he didn't particularly trust everybody involved, but Vince Sr. at that point, he turned down the opportunity to buy Toots Mont's shares, which is what eventually went to Gorilla in 1969, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, Hogan, again, different than everyone else in history, even Steve Austin. And Steve Austin should have had leverage considering they turned it into a publicly traded company off on the back of Steve Austin. But Steve Austin, I don't even think he was ever the central focus that Hogan was in the 80s.
No, Austin was as big a part as you could be of a much bigger pie, whereas Hogan was just as big, but the pie was smaller and he was more necessary to the survival of the pie.
And in terms of merchandise, I mean, he was outselling everyone. And, the LJN figures, Hulk Hogan was the biggest seller. Hulk Hogan's Rocket Wrestling was in production. Merchandise up the gazoo. It would be interesting if that had ever happened. Now, they were close. I mean, Vince moved Hulk Hogan to Connecticut.
Well, but right? Think about it. He had no reason to hold him up early on. See, that's the thing is, a lot of times also guys could be short-sighted. But usually the time that you held a wrestling promoter up in front of the big show for a big payoff he didn't intend to pay out was the last time that you had dealings with that promoter. Hulk was already figured in. He was already making multiple times more money than all the rest of the guys in 85, 86, 87, 88. Where he may have made a mistake is not ever picking a spot in that 90-91 period to hold up Vince for a fucking life-changing amount of money before it got to the point where he couldn't really hold Vince up for anything that Vince couldn't fucking suffer through. But if he'd held him up in 85, he'd have lost a lot more years because Vince would have known he's my guy now and he's drawing money, but I can't trust him, and I'll work more actively toward finding a way to replace him.
And without knowing the specifics of his deal with Vince throughout the 80s and 90s, he would kind of get the deal you were talking about earlier. You know, the best possible deal you could have, an ownership deal without actually being an owner from WCW. And he had the leverage there. He knew they needed him. He knew Bischoff really wanted him. He was able to get the best deal for a wrestler ever.
But he wouldn't have been able to get any kind of ownership there because of the TBS corporate ownership.
Right.
But, you know, again, and I know there's been some debate about this here recently. I've seen online and people asking various things, and I'll say this and then let you take over. But there's been some, and especially Uncle Dave has weighed in on some of this. The story that I heard about the WrestleMania 3 payoffs was that Jim Barnett was the guy in charge of doing payoffs at the time that WrestleMania 3 happened. And Barnett gave Hogan and Andre $250,000 apiece, and Vince overruled it and gave them $750,000 apiece. And the comment was out there when Hogan passed away here recently that I think from Uncle Dave that was the biggest amount of money that any wrestler earned in one night until, was it Tyson or until some other time. But I also always heard that to placate Hogan and Warrior for different reasons, that weren't they WrestleMania 4 or was it 5?
Hogan and Warrior is WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. Skydome.
6. Okay. 6, whatever. I heard that they got $1 million apiece just because Vince wanted to be able to claim to them that they got more than Hogan and Andre did, even if it wasn't as important to business and potentially that they had earned it as much. So for whatever that's worth.
Well, Jim, with that, the drive-thru has closed. A pleasant ending.
Good Lord, slide me some fucking green tea over here and let me sit cross-legged on the floor and contemplate the orange blossoms.
We will be back on the experience in a few days. And of course, next week back here in the drive-thru, go through the archive, patreon.com/Cornette. $5 a month gets you access to the archive going back to 2013. And don't forget the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, subscribe today. Full episodes, clips of the episodes, omnibus collections with that very popular George Livinitis artwork, and so much more. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Jim Cornette's collectibles at jimcornette.com. You and Hotchkiss are about to be very busy.
Boy, howdy, Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern Time. Heroes and Friends, the brand new book goes on sale. Go to jimcornette.com, click on the banner. It'll give you a lot of the information there. You can see pictures of the bad boy, as well as Wrestling in the Garden, a history of Madison Square Garden wrestling from Scott Teal and crowbarpress.com. Limited amount of copies. The $40, $20, and $10 off action figure sale. Go look at the banner for details and more, and new pictures. And what do you want? A rubber biscuit?
At jimcornette.com, of course, the drive-thru is brought to you by the law office of Stephen P. New. No rubber biscuits there. 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. Listen to the wrestling news each and every day, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Just look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News. But until next week back here on the drive-thru and in a few days on the experience, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. God damn it, I think the battery's starting to go too. Tally-ho! Drive-Thru.
Rubber biscuit.